Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Hope you enjoy this new video. Comment down below if you have any suggestions. Enjoy.
Xia Ruofei frowned when he heard that. However, before he could say anything, Peng Hao, who was beside him, said unhappily, "Lu Hang, what do you mean? Can't Ruofei leave the army earlier?" Lu Hang spread his hands innocently and said, "I didn't mean anything else. I'm just concerned about Xia Ruofei. If there was any stain in the army, the file would have to be brought to the local area. My dad works in the Civil Affairs Bureau, so he has some say in this. If Ruofei really gets punished, it's best to think of a way to get rid of it, or it'll affect her future." Xia Ruofei could tell that Lu Hang was probably unhappy that Jian Jia was the former class monitor after he became the center of attention. After all, he had always been the center of attention. That was why he deliberately spoke ill of Xia Ruofei and secretly showed off his father's power. Of course, it could also be that Lu Hang did not like Xia Ruofei because of the grudges they had in school. However, Xia Ruofei felt that Lu Hang's behavior was ridiculous. He had no intention of competing for the limelight, but Lu Hang treated him as a threat. How petty. Peng Hao's eyes widened as he said, "Do you look like you're going to help Ruofei? You chubby boy, that's enough." Xia Ruofei interrupted Peng Hao and looked at Lu Hang. "Thank you for your concern, class monitor. I'll look for you if I need anything. You don't have to be polite with me," Lu Hang said with a fake smile on his face. At the same time, he looked at the students around him with a sense of superiority. Xia Ruofei looked at him indifferently and then turned to Yuan Lily. He asked with a smile, "Oh right, why don't I see your fiancé?" Yuan Lily could tell that Lu Hang and Xia Ruofei did not get along. As the host, she was thinking about how to resolve the awkwardness. Seeing that Xia Ruofei had changed the topic, she immediately smiled and said, "My husband is still in New York. He's very busy with his investment bank work, so he could only rush back on the day of the engagement. Today is just a small gathering between us classmates, and it's also my bachelor party. We'll hold our wedding in the United States. So it's like this. It's not easy for successful people like you," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. "What successful person? I'm just trying to make a living abroad," Yuan Lily said humbly, then continued, "By the way, since everyone is here, let's not stand here and talk. Let's go to the hotel." Yes. Let's talk at the hotel," Lu Hang immediately said. "My car can fit 4 people. Lily, you can sit in my car." "All right," Yuan Lily said with a smile. "I came in Ruofei's car, let's get in his car later," Guan Ping said. Hearing that, Peng Hao immediately said, "Ruofei, you're driving. Then I'll take your car too." Lu Hang was stunned for a moment and then asked, "Ruofei, you just left the army and you're already buying a car? I've been working for more than 3 years, and I only bought a Toyota Ruzi last year. Sigh, I spend a lot, so I can't save money. By the way, what car did you buy?" he asked. "Great Wall pickup truck," Xia Ruofei said with a faint smile. "A pickup?" Lu Hang showed an exaggerated expression and said, "Who still drives a pickup truck these days? Ruofei, you're not joking with me, right? What's there to joke about?" Xia Ruofei shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently, "I think the pickup is quite convenient. It's also very practical for work." "What?" Lu Hang immediately asked. "Ruofei, have you settled your work? Where do you work? Why do you need a pickup?" Xia Ruofei felt that Lu Hang was really annoying. However, since it was Yuan Lily's treat today, he did not want to make the atmosphere too stiff. So, after thinking for a while, he said, "I didn't plan to settle down. I'm now planting my own vegetables in the suburbs." "Grow vegetables? You went to suburbs to be a farmer?" Lu Hang's expression was very exaggerated. "Why didn't you come to me earlier? My dad is the chief of the Civil Affairs Bureau, so our family can help with the resettlement after retirement. I think it's good to start your own business," Xia Ruofei said with a slight frown, his face showing a trace of impatience. Lu Hang showed a look of understanding and said, "That's true. The placement of retired soldiers is worse than that of changed military officers. Moreover, you have a high school diploma, so it's not easy for you to be authorized. So you don't have to settle down, it's actually quite wise to get more retirement fees. Besides, it's not a bad time to grow vegetables. If you work hard, it's not a problem to earn a few thousand yuan a month. He seemed to be thinking for Xia Ruofei, but in fact, he was belittling Xia Ruofei. Guan Ping and Pang Hao couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing this, Yuan Lily quickly said, "Let's not chat here. Who else is driving? Let's split up and go to the hotel." Another two students who had driven over also tried to smooth things over and invited everyone to sit in their cars. There were only 12 or 13 people in the group, so 4 cars were naturally more than enough. Lu Hang's words seemed to have an effect. The girls who were very friendly to Xia Ruofei did not ask to ride in his car after hearing that he was a vegetable farmer. In the end, only Guan Ping and Pang Hao were in Xia Ruofei's pickup truck. Along the way, Guan Ping and Pang Hao criticized Lu Hang for being unkind. Xia Ruofei, on the other hand, did not take it to heart. In his eyes, Lu Hang's sense of superiority was not worth mentioning at all. In fact, it was very ridiculous. Very quickly, Xia Ruofei followed the car in front and arrived at a restaurant by the Min River. Xia Ruofei looked at the sign. This restaurant was called Hong Tian Restaurant. Xia Ruofei, who had grown up in Sanshan City, had heard of it. It was considered a long-standing brand that specialized in authentic Min cuisine. As Xia Ruofei's car was the last to enter, he was led to a parking lot further away. When Xia Ruofei parked the car and walked into the restaurant with Pang Hao and Guan Ping, they heard Lu Hang's loud voice. "What are you guys doing? I clearly said on the phone that I want to book Lakshmi Pavilion, and now that my guests have arrived, you're telling me that Lakshmi Pavilion has already been booked." Lu Hang slapped the front desk angrily. The front desk manager carefully explained, "Supervisor Lu, I'm really sorry. After I received your call, I immediately went to the front desk to confirm the reservation. However, Lakshmi Pavilion has indeed been reserved. So, I arranged for you to go to Ruyi Pavilion, which is opposite. I also sent you a text message." A text message? Lu Hang immediately took out his mobile phone. Sure enough, there was a text message from the manager. He had been visiting the campus of No. 2 Middle School with Yuan Lily and the others just now, so he did not notice the text message. "I don't care about your text messages." Lu Hang closed his phone and said, "We only get together once every 10 years, and you arranged a trashy room like the Ruyi Pavilion for me. Do you still want to keep your hotel? Go and coordinate a change of private room for me immediately. I'm determined to get this Lakshmi Pavilion tonight." Xia Ruofei and the other two walked forward. Guan Ping pulled over a familiar classmate and asked, "What's the situation?" Through the student's story, Xia Ruofei and the other two finally understood the general situation. It turned out that Lu Hang had volunteered to book a restaurant for Yuan Lily today. When they arrived at Hongtian Restaurant, the front desk manager told him that the private room of Jishang Pavilion that he had wanted had been reserved. He also sent a text message to Lu Hang to inform him of the matter. At the same time, the front desk manager also adjusted the layout of the Ruyi Pavilion private room for Lu Hang, which was exactly the same as Lakshmi Pavilion. However, Lu Hang was determined to find Lakshmi Pavilion, so he made a scene in the lobby of the restaurant. Since the layout is the same, what's there to make a fuss about? Xia Ruofei asked in confusion. The student smiled bitterly. The layout is the same, but Lakshmi Pavilion is a private room by the river. You can see the river view when you eat, but you can only see the hotel parking lot in Ruyi Pavilion. And the class monitor may feel that she has lost face. Xia Ruofei was speechless. Wasn't this a little too pretentious? Although the hotel was at fault, it was just a meal, so they should be more understanding of each other. Besides, he had informed her immediately. It was just that she didn't notice the message. Section Chief Lu, this. The customer over there made a reservation first. It's not easy for us to coordinate. The front desk manager said awkwardly. Seeing that, Yuan Lily also said, Lu Hang, why don't we forget about it? Isn't it the same if we get together as classmates in any private room? Xia Ruofei also smiled. I agree. It's a rare gathering. It's a happy occasion. There's no need to spoil the mood over such a small matter. When Yuan Lily spoke, Lu Hang's face only darkened a little. But when he heard Xia Ruofei echo her words, he immediately frowned and said impatiently, Xia Ruofei, don't talk nonsense. Was this a small matter? When have I, Lu Hang, ever suffered such vexation? If you can't even book a private room you want, will you be able to enjoy this meal? Xia Ruofei pursed his lips and laughed silently. Lu Heng really thought he was a pushover. Just now, Yuan Lily had the same opinion, but he did not say anything. However, once Xia Ruofei opened his mouth, he immediately scolded him. However, since Yuan Lily was treating them to dinner today, Xia Ruofei did not want to make the atmosphere too stiff. He used his eyes to stop Pang Hao and Guan Ping, who were about to flip out. He simply stood at the side with his arms crossed and watched the show. Since Lu Heng wanted to be in the limelight, he would let him perform to his heart's content. In Xia Ruofei's eyes, Lu Heng was no different from a clown. Lu Heng raised his head and said to the front desk manager, "Since you can't make the decision, then go and call your store manager he over." The front desk manager said with a strange expression, "I'm sorry, Section Chief Lu, but branch manager he left his job a few days ago." Lu Heng was choked up. His expression was as if he was constipated. At this time, another female student said, "Manager, why don't you tell us who booked Lakshmi Pavilion? Let's talk to him about changing rooms, okay?" Lu Heng's eyes immediately lit up and said, "Yes, yes, yes. Tell me, who made the decision for Lakshmi Pavilion? I'll call him personally. I don't believe that Lu Heng's face doesn't work in the Three Mountains. Class monitor, it seems that you've been doing well in the system these past few years. Isn't that so? How many years has class monitor Lu been in the company? He's already a section chief. Who would dare to not give face to section chief Lu?" The few classmates were all complimenting him. Lu Heng was obviously very pleased. He glanced at Xia Ruofei, intentionally or otherwise, with a sense of superiority. The front desk manager hesitated for a moment. It was definitely against the rules to disclose the customer's information, but Lu Heng was obviously not willing to let it go. Moreover, the person who made the reservation at Lakshmi Pavilion was also a person in the system, so she made a decision after weighing the pros and cons. Section Chief Lu, Lakshmi Pavilion has been booked in advance by Section Chief Hao from the Provincial Civil Affairs Department. The front desk manager said carefully, "Why don't you discuss this with him? However, please don't say that I leaked the information, it's against the rules." Lu Heng's proud look froze when he heard that. What kind of international joke is this? To discuss with Section Chief Hao of the Provincial Department about changing rooms. My old man is only a section chief in the District Civil Affairs Bureau, and he has to be polite to the section chief of the Provincial Department. I'm just a small section chief, and you want me to give orders to the section chief of the Provincial Department. Lu Heng really hated this gentle front desk manager now. If she had told him earlier that Lakshmi Pavilion was reserved by Section Chief Zhou, he would definitely have gone with the flow. Now that she had said it in front of so many students, wasn't it impossible to back down? Everyone had been in society for a long time, so they had the ability to read people's expressions. Therefore, when the little fatty Pang Hao saw Lu Heng's expression, he almost could not hold back his laughter. Guan Ping was annoyed by Lu Heng's condescending tone when he spoke to Xia Ruofei, so he said directly, "Class monitor Lu, quickly go and talk to this section chief Zhou and ask him to obediently give up the private room." Hearing this, Pang Hao couldn't help but chuckle, "Yup. The problem with the box is related to our class monitor Lu's face. It's no small matter." Xia Ruofei smiled as he watched the show from the side, a warm current flowing through his heart. Xia Ruofei could tell that Guan Ping and Pang Hao were not doing very well. Lu Heng, on the other hand, obviously had a certain amount of power. However, the two of them were willing to offend Lu Heng just to help him get back at him. Their friendship from their middle school days had not diminished in the slightest. Lu Heng's face turned red as he glared at Pang Hao and Guan Ping with hatred. It was obvious that he hated both of them along with Xia Ruofei. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Yuan Lily quickly tried to smooth things over. "Lu Heng, let's forget it. Since they booked it first, let's change to another room. It's the same no matter where we are." Lu Heng heaved a sigh of relief. Although he had slapped himself in the face, at least he had a way out. He quickly said, "All right. After all, first come, first served. Since you, the master, don't mind, I have no objections either." The few students who had just praised Lu Heng now had strange expressions on their faces. The class reunion hadn't even started, but the atmosphere had already become quite strange. Just as everyone was about to head to the elevator, a surprised voice suddenly came from the door. "Mr. Xia, are you here to eat?" Xia Ruofei and the others stopped and turned around. They saw a curvaceous and charming young woman in a black professional suit walking over with a warm smile. The person was the new procurement manager of Lingji F&B. When Xia Ruofei first provided paradise vegetables to Lingji F&B, it was Ling Qingshe who personally brought her to Xia Ruofei's villa. "So it's big sister Xu. You're here to eat too." Xia Ruofei smiled and greeted him. Then, she said jokingly, "Isn't your own company in the F&B industry? Why is the fertile water still flowing into the fields of others?" "Mr. Xia, you're so funny. Didn't Qingshe tell you?" Manager Xu chuckled. "The Hongtian restaurant has been acquired by our Lingji F&B, and it's now a fully owned subsidiary of us that specializes in Min cuisine." Quote. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but be dumbfounded. After a while, he smiled bitterly and said, "No way. What a coincidence. I'm just having a meal and I'm in your territory." At this time, a man in a suit and leather shoes hurried over and said, "Manager Xu, welcome to our shop for inspection and guidance. We would also like to thank the head office for your care and concern for Hongtian restaurant. We have been looking forward to this batch of Taoyuan vegetables. I've been looking forward to this day." Manager Xu smiled apologetically at Xia Ruofei before turning to the man in the suit and said, "Store manager Lin, Taoyuan vegetables are in the car outside. You can have them moved to the back kitchen. Also, Mr. Ling told me to check the purchasing records of the other branches. Please get them ready, I still have something to deal with here." All right, branch manager Lin said hurriedly. He handed it over to the front desk manager and quietly gave a few instructions to have the people below move the vegetables and prepare the accounts. He himself stood somewhat cautiously on the side, urging the head company's department manager to come to the branch. That was the imperial envoy. He had to be served carefully. When manager Xu faced Xia Ruofei, his facial expression immediately became very gentle and respectful. "Mr. Xia," she asked, "if I may ask, is this a gathering of friends?" "Oh, it's our 10th graduation anniversary, so we're all going to have a meal together," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. After that, Xia Ruofei introduced Manager Xu to the students. Manager Xu nodded enthusiastically to everyone. When Xia Ruofei's middle school classmates heard that this B*TCH was actually the famous Lingji's F&B procurement department manager, and that the new branch manager of Hongtian restaurant was also respectful to her, yet she was so polite in front of Xia Ruofei, they immediately looked at Xia Ruofei in a different light. Lu Hang's face turned red and white. He did not expect Xia Ruofei, who called himself a vegetable farmer, to have such a big reputation. Compared to his previous poor performance, he really wanted to find a hole to hide in. "Mr. Xia, when I came in just now, I saw that you two didn't seem to be happy." Manager Xu asked, "Is there something wrong with the service?" As soon as Manager Xu said this, branch manager Lin, who was next to him, suddenly became nervous. "It's nothing." Xia Ruofei smiled faintly. "However, the private room we wanted has already been booked in advance. We were just discussing the change of private rooms." "Oh." When Manager Xu heard this, he immediately turned to Manager Lin and said, "Manager Lin, prepare the top floor's Linjiang Pavilion for Mr. Xia and the others immediately." When branch manager Lin heard that, he was stunned for a moment, then said hesitantly, "Manager Xu, Linjiang Pavilion is CEO Ling's private room." This. As it turned out, Ling Xiaotian, who was from the Three Mountains, had a special liking for Min cuisine. In terms of the degree of authentic Min cuisine, the large-scale Lingji restaurant chain could not be compared to the decades-old Hongtian restaurant. Therefore, after Ling Xiaotian had acquired Hongtian restaurant, he had specially ordered people to renovate a large private room on the top floor. This private room was reserved for Ling Xiaotian's personal use, and was not open for business. So, even though Manager Xu had spoken, branch manager Lin still felt that it was very difficult for Wanwan. After all, Manager Xu was only a department manager at the head office, but the Linjiang Pavilion was the private room of the boss of the company. Manager Xu frowned and said, "What's wrong with President Ling's private room?" "Mr. Xia was CEO Ling's esteemed guest, so of course, he had to open the best private room to receive him. Why don't you give President Ling a call and ask for instructions? Branch manager Lin's forehead was covered in sweat, and he quickly said, I don't dare, I'll arrange it immediately. He also secretly scolded himself for being out of his mind. Since Manager Shu had already spoken, he would just do as she said. Anyway, if President Ling really wanted to blame someone, she would be the one to take responsibility. But now, the private room had to be opened, and he had offended her for no reason. Manager Shu nodded expressionlessly. Then, he turned to Xia Ruofei and smiled. Mr. Xia, I'm really sorry. The people below don't know your identity. I've already ordered them to move you to the top floor, Linjiang Pavilion. Xia Ruofei could feel the strange looks from the students around him. He could not help but smile bitterly. Big Sister Shu, there's no need for that. We don't have many people, so the Rui Pavilion is fine. That won't do. Manager Shu said seriously, if CEO Ling finds out that we have neglected you, I can't bear the blame. Well, Xia Ruofei smiled bitterly and turned to Yuan Lily. Yuan Lily, since Manager Shu is so polite, shall we change to another room? Sure, let's take advantage of you. Yuan Lily nodded with a smile. When branch manager Lin heard that, he quickly led the way and led Xia Ruofei and the others to the exclusive elevator of the private room in Linjiang Pavilion. They went directly to the top floor. The Linjiang Pavilion private room was located above the auspicious pavilion and the Rui Pavilion. It was as large as the two private rooms combined and was very spacious. Facing the river were two full glass curtains, allowing one to enjoy the 270-degree view of the river with no dead angle. The luxurious decorations in the room made Xia Ruofei's junior high school classmates feel like they were in a grand view garden. A thick white wool carpet covered the entire room, and against the wall was an antique pure oak museum shelf, on which was a dazzling collection. In front of the shelf was a row of luxurious handmade Netherlands sheepskin couches, and an exquisite tea set was placed on the marble coffee table. On one side of the glass wall, there was a large, luxurious round table. On top of the round table, there was a bright crystal lamp. The hanging ornament swayed gently in the breeze, reflecting a blurred light. The glass window on the curtain wall was half open, and as the river wind blew, the tassel, like gauze curtain gently swayed, making people feel relaxed and happy. Every detail in the private room was done to the extreme. There was clearly a Western luxury and a Chinese classical, but the two completely different styles were harmonious in this place, making people feel that there was no sense of disharmony. Even Lu Hang, who was self-proclaimed to be knowledgeable, could not help but click his tongue when he entered the room. He had been to this restaurant many times, but he had never known that there was such an extremely luxurious room hidden on the top floor. Manager Shu personally made tea for everyone, and store manager Lin became an errand boy, directing the youngest and prettiest waitresses in the store to get busy. After chatting for a while, everyone went to the round table and took their seats. Manager Shu also tactfully took his leave. The students were all curious about Xia Ruofei. Yuan Lily took the lead and asked with a smile, Xia Ruofei, we're all thanks to you today. This was definitely the treatment of a top VIP. Tell me the truth, what do you do? Why does the famous Lingji restaurant have to be so polite to you? Yes, if you dare to hide anything, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. Pang Hao also joined in the fun, the fat on his face jiggling as he laughed, looking very comical. The other students also echoed. Only Lu Hang lowered his head slightly, and his face was frighteningly gloomy. Xia Ruofei forced a smile and said, didn't I already tell everyone? Actually, I'm just a vegetable farmer. Tisk. Who would believe that? Pang Hao shouted, students, do you believe me? I don't believe it. Xia Ruofei's classmates all laughed. At this moment, the restaurant's branch manager Lin personally came in with a dish. He had a warm smile on his face, but there was a heartache in his eyes that could not be hidden, making his smile seem a little bitter. Mr. Xia, distinguished guests, this is our store's latest Taoyuan vegetable series. Please enjoy. Branch manager Lin tried to make his voice sound calmer and forced a smile. His intestines were about to turn green from regret. Although he had followed manager Shu's instructions to open the private room in Linjiang Pavilion, he still felt very uneasy. After much thought, he couldn't help but sneak out and call Ling Xiaotian to report the matter. He did not expect that once Ling Xiaotian heard that it was Xia Ruofei, he would immediately order him to do his best to ensure the service and that all expenses tonight would be free. This was not a big deal. Ling Xiaotian was the boss anyway, and the loss of the bill was not his own money. However, what Ling Xiaotian ordered next made store manager Lin want to cry but had no tears. Ling Xiaotian had asked him to prepare taoyuan vegetables for Xia Ruofei's table, and to serve each dish. Recently, the Paradise brand vegetables of the Lingji restaurant chain had become their well-known signboard. Many gluttons from other places came to try it, bringing a lot of popularity to the Lingji restaurant. Branch manager Lin had also applied for many days before he managed to snatch a few caddies of shares from several flagship stores in the city to Hongtian restaurant. He had originally wanted to use taoyuan vegetables to boost his sales. He did not expect that Ling Xiaotian would give half of his daily share to Xia Ruofei's table with just one sentence. Moreover, it was provided for free. However, he didn't dare to disobey the big boss's orders. He could only tell the kitchen to hurry up and cook with a sad face. Xia Ruofei's classmates did not feel anything. Although many of them had heard of the taoyuan vegetables, they did not have a direct understanding of their value. Even Yuan Lily thought it was Xia Ruofei who had arranged the menu. Only Lu Hang's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard the words, taoyuan vegetables. He often went out to socialize, so he naturally knew about the recently famous taoyuan vegetables. Moreover, he even went to Lingji restaurant to try it out. However, he didn't get what he wanted even after 2 visits. Now that Paradise vegetables was too popular, unless he had an internal relationship, he would still need to make a reservation many days in advance to go to Lingji restaurant. He was just a small section chief of the District Civil Affairs Bureau, so he did not have that much face. He did not expect Xia Ruofei to have such power even though he did not show off. Lu Hang could not help but secretly look at Xia Ruofei, who was still calm and collected. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. "Thank you, branch manager Lin," Xia Ruofei said with a gentle smile. Then, he said to Yuan Lily and the others, "Students, let's try the cooking of the chef of Hongtian restaurant." It was a dish of stir-fried spinach. The green spinach looked particularly attractive on the white porcelain plate. The appearance of the Paradise vegetables had always been excellent, and it was very easy to arouse people's appetite. Everyone responded one after another. Everyone picked up a piece of spinach and put it in their mouths, even Lu Hang. After tasting it, everyone's expression became rich and colorful. After chewing and swallowing, they couldn't stop praising the taste of the Paradise vegetables. A few days ago, a colleague ate Paradise vegetables at Lingji restaurant and bragged about it to us after he came back. "I finally got to taste it today," Guan Ping said excitedly. "I can only say that I've wronged that colleague. He wasn't bragging at all, it was really delicious. I've been hearing people talking about taoyuan vegetables these days. I only realized how delicious they are after I tried them today." Pang Hao also said. A female classmate said remorsefully, "I actually forgot to take a picture and post it on my moments. It's not easy to eat Paradise vegetables, so I'd be letting myself down if I didn't post it on my moments to show off." This female student's words immediately resonated with several other students. Everyone felt that it was a pity because there was not much of the spinach left. At this moment, store manager Lin hurriedly said, "Dear distinguished guests, there are 5 more dishes. All of them are high-quality vegetables from Paradise. You can take as many photos as you want." "Oh, really? That's great, that's great. Don't move. Let's talk after I'm done taking the photos." Same beat, same beat. Xia Ruofei found it funny that his classmates were so excited. He smiled at branch manager Lin and said, "Branch manager Lin, I'll have to trouble you. Please convey my gratitude to President Ling." "You're welcome," branch manager Lin said quickly. "I'll go to the kitchen to rush you. Please wait a moment." With that, store manager Lin bowed slightly to the crowd and left the private room. As soon as store manager Lin left, these middle school students focused their attention on Xia Ruofei. If the incident in the private room just now had surprised them, then the taoyuan vegetables had really shocked them. Xia Ruofei had always wanted to keep a low profile, but things just happened to be so coincidental. Today, Yuan Lily was treating him to dinner, so he didn't want to overshadow the host. He raised his glass with a smile and said, "Students, don't forget today's main topic. I suggest that we all give a toast to Yuan Lily and wish her a happy marriage." "Good. Congratulations. Come, cheers." Yuan Lily raised her cup and said with a smile, "Thank you, Ruofei." "Thank you, everyone." Everyone drank a glass of wine together. After a while, the remaining Taoyuan brand vegetables were served one by one. Everyone naturally took pictures from various angles and then ate together. Even though Xia Ruofei had intentionally led the topic to Yuan Lily, he still inevitably became the focus of the crowd. Even Yuan Lily herself had specially toasted Xia Ruofei several times. After everyone entered society, it was inevitable that they would become more realistic than before. In comparison, Xia Ruofei, who had been in the army for 7 years, did not have the aura of a profiteer. He had always been indifferent to money. Of course, this was also because he had a killing weapon like the spirit map scroll, so he didn't have to worry about money. They had enjoyed the luxurious Riverview suite, the red wine that Ling Xiaotian had secretly stashed away, and the vegetables that were as popular as the sun in the sky. Xia Ruofei's junior high school classmates were naturally quite satisfied. Only Lu Hang was silent throughout the whole process. Even when he was tasting the delicious Taoyuan vegetables, he was absent-minded and looked at his phone from time to time. Guan Ping, who was sitting beside Xia Ruofei, nudged him and whispered, "You're pretty fast, kid. He's even meeting his parents." Xia Ruofei was confused and asked, "What parent-teacher meeting? What parent-teacher meeting? You're still pretending, aren't you?" Guan Ping smiled mysteriously and said, "Didn't you go back with the school bell to meet her parents? President Ling is so good to you. Tonight's arrangement is simply meticulous." Xia Ruofei felt as if 10 million alpacas had just run over him. What the hell was this? Initially, Guan Ping had thought that Xia Ruofei had received such preferential treatment at a subsidiary branch of the Ling Ji restaurant because his relationship with Ling Qingshe had been confirmed, and that he had already become the future son-in-law of Ling Xiaotian. Seeing Xia Ruofei's speechless expression, Guan Ping chuckled and said in a low voice, all right. Don't pretend to be innocent. I'm still a loyal friend, haven't I been keeping your secret? Protect your sister. I really didn't, Xia Ruofei said as if he had said it. He smiled bitterly and helplessly. Forget it. You can think however you want. Xia Ruofei did not even have the strength to explain. If Guan Ping misunderstood, he could only let him be. When everyone was almost done eating, Yuan Lily quietly got up and went out. After a short while, she returned to the private room with a bitter smile and said, "Ruofei, you're too polite." "What's wrong?" Xia Ruofei asked, confused. "I just went to settle the bill, but they said you've already paid." Yuan Lily reproached, "I'm treating my classmates to a meal before my engagement. How can I let you pay for it? How much did this meal cost? I'll transfer it to you later." "I didn't." Xia Ruofei smiled helplessly. He thought for a moment and understood the reason. He said, "I understand. Yuan Lily, don't worry about this. I have a good relationship with the owner of this restaurant. I guess he told me to give you a free meal. How can we do that? I'll just give you the money." Yuan Lily said. "The problem is that I didn't spend any money." Xia Ruofei shrugged helplessly. "I'll just pretend that you're paying for this meal. It doesn't matter who's paying. What's important is that we can get together, right?" Yuan Lily wanted to insist on her opinion, but her classmates also tried to persuade her. Some people said that Xia Ruofei had stolen the limelight from Yuan Lily, but most of them were just joking. At this time, Lu Hang said, "Yuan Lily, Xia Ruofei is right. It's most important to have fun together. Besides, a meal doesn't cost much. You don't have to be so formal. This meal isn't cheap," Yuan Lily said with a bitter smile. "Let's not talk about those high-end seafood. Although I haven't been back in the country for long, I know how popular Taoyuan vegetables are in Sanshan City. One dish costs at least a few hundred yuan. Not to mention that so many dishes were served today. Even if other people have money, they can't get to eat it. Yuan Lily, don't argue with us. At most, when your fiancé returns to China, he can treat us to a meal." Xia Ruofei said with a smile. Yes. Lu Hang said, let's take it as Xia Ruofei treating us today. How about this, since Yuan Lily has returned to China and we can get together as classmates, I'll arrange the next program. Supervisor Lu, there's still another program coming up. Pang Hao asked with a smile. Of course, the nightlife has just begun. Lu Hang said, I'll take everyone to a good place later. Ordinary people can't even enter the gate. Oh, really? Then we'll have to take a good look. Guan Ping also said jokingly, class monitor, there's no problem with the box this time, right? Previously, Lu Hang had been acting weird towards Xia Ruofei. As Xia Ruofei's good brothers, Guan Ping and Pang Hao could not stand it. Now that Lu Hang, who had been sulking the entire night, was acting arrogantly again, Guan Ping could not help but want to give him a blow. What do you know? They're on a membership system. Lu Hang said disdainfully, members will have a private room at any time. Then, Lu Hang turned to Yuan Lily and said, Yuan Lily, Xia Ruofei was the host for the meal just now. Now, I'll be the host to celebrate with you. You're not going to reject me, are you? Of course we have to give our class monitor face, Yuan Lily said with a smile. We don't have to spend any money anyway. Don't you agree? The students laughed and agreed with Yuan Lily, while Xia Ruofei could only smile bitterly in his heart. The atmosphere of the class reunion had changed a long time ago, but it would not be good to leave halfway, so he could only go with them. He could imagine that Lu Hang must be trying to show off and beat him, but he felt that such a comparison was too childish. Everyone had eaten and drunk their fill, so Lu Hang took everyone to the next scene. So, the group left Hongtian restaurant. Lu Hang found a few substitute drivers and drove them straight to the city center. Xia Ruofei sat in the passenger's seat and felt that the road was familiar. When they arrived at the parking lot, Lu Hang led a group of students to the scenic area of San Fangqi Street. Xia Ruofei could not help but have a strange look on his face. Sure enough, after a while, Lu Hang led everyone to the entrance of the West River Moon Club. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but rub his forehead. What was going on today? Why was it not Lingji Restaurant but Zaijiang Moon Club? Can't we just have a gathering with our classmates in a low-key manner? Lu Hang directly went up to the man in black at the door and said, Young Master Li used his membership card to help me book a private room in the Plum Blossom Hall. He had already informed your manager. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but shake his head. Lu Hang didn't even have Shi Zhongyu's membership card. He even asked someone to reserve a private room to show off. He really didn't know how strong this guy's vanity was. Xia Ruofei reached into his pocket and squeezed the platinum card. After some thought, he put it back. The man in black had a cold expression on his face. After confirming with the people inside through the walkie-talkie, he nodded and let them in. Lu Hang led Yuan Lily and the others into the courtyard of the club. Immediately, a tall waiter in a cheongsam came forward and led them to the private room. Lu Hang introduced proudly, this Zaijiang Moon Club is not a place that just anyone can enter. Even I don't have a membership card here, but I have a good friend who is a silver member here. Today, I asked him to book a private room for me, so that everyone can see the life of the upper class. The students were dazzled by the splendid decorations in the club. Lu Hang continued to boast, I often come here to eat with young Master Li. Almost every time he came, he would meet celebrities. He heard that Heavenly King Lu would invite his friends to San Shan for his concert. If you're lucky, you might even meet your idol. Lu Hang's vanity was greatly satisfied when he saw his classmates' envious looks. He looked at Xia Ruofei as if he was showing off his strength, but Xia Ruofei still looked indifferent. This lowered his sense of achievement by a lot. Soon, they arrived at the lobby of the club. Xia Ruofei immediately saw the charming and graceful lobby manager. Coincidentally, the lobby manager also looked over. When she saw Xia Ruofei, she was stunned for a moment before her eyes widened. However, before she could speak, Xia Ruofei shook his head discreetly and gave her a look. The lobby manager immediately understood and smiled at Xia Ruofei. He did not go forward to disturb him. However, when Xia Ruofei and the rest followed the female receptionist through the lobby and walked to the Plum Blossom Hall, the lobby manager immediately walked to the side and gave President Zheng a call. President Zheng, Mr. Xia just came to the clubhouse. The lobby manager said respectfully. Brother Xia is here, why didn't he give me a call in advance? President Zheng was a little surprised and immediately said, "Little Meng, you must take good care of Brother Xia." The noble hall is empty tonight, right? I'll arrange it for Brother Xia. President Zheng, Mr. Xia came with some friends. He doesn't want me to disturb him. The lobby manager reported. I see. President Zheng pondered for a moment and said, then find out which private room they are in and give them a bottle of good wine in the name of the club. I'll go back now. We'll talk about it when I'm back. All right, President Zheng. The lobby manager replied respectfully. After the phone call, she immediately paid more attention to Xia Ruofei. She knew that President Zheng was playing cards at a friend's house tonight. She didn't expect that once he heard that Xia Ruofei was coming, he would immediately put down his game and rush back. How much did he value Xia Ruofei? She immediately beckoned for a service staff and asked her to find out which private room Xia Ruofei and the others were in while she personally went to the warehouse to pick the wine. Xia Ruofei and the rest soon arrived at the Plum Blossom Hall. The Plum Blossom Hall was not big. After Xia Ruofei and a dozen people went in, it seemed a little crowded. It was obvious that Lu Hang's reputation was limited. However, any private room in the West River Moon Club was quite exquisite. Such a medium-sized private room, whether it was the luxuriousness of the facilities, the professional sound system, or even every detail, was naturally more than a little better than the average nightclub or KTV. Come on, everyone, feel free to sit. Lu Hang greeted everyone with a smug expression. Then, he asked the waiter to order some drinks, fruit platters, snacks, and so on. In fact, if the club's VIP members came to spend money, they didn't need to order themselves. The club would naturally arrange everything. Make yourself at home. Those who want to sing, sing. Those who want to play cards, play. The club even has a special sauna room and gym that are all free to use. Whoever is interested, you can go there directly. Lu Hang said as if he was the host. Apart from Yuan Lily who lived abroad, the rest of the students who came to the party were basically working in Sanshan. It was their first time at a top club like Shijiangyu, so they were naturally a little reserved. Therefore, none of them used the other free facilities of the club. Instead, they sat together. Some of them started singing, while others gathered to play cards. Some of them even played dice, just like in the ordinary KTV rooms. At this time, the door of the private room was knocked open, and a beautiful and tall waitress came in with a bottle of red wine in both hands. She bowed slightly and said, "Dear guests, this is a gift from the club. It's a 1985 Berthus red wine. A gift. 85 Petrus. After all, Yuan Lily lived abroad." Hearing that, she immediately said in surprise, "A bottle is at least $1,500. No way. What kind of wine was this that was so expensive? Li, are you sure you're not mistaken? 1,500 yuan for a bottle of wine. US dollars. Oh my god, this wine is worth 1 square meter of a house in the center of Sanshan City." The waiter did not look down on Xia Ruofei and his classmates because they looked like they had not seen the world. He smiled and said, "This is indeed a 1985 Berthus. It was directly imported by our club from its original place, Bordeaux." In fact, everyone was just shocked by the price Yuan Lily had mentioned. They didn't really doubt the authenticity of the red wine. Lu Hang was a little confused at first, but he quickly reacted and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha. It must be because of young Master Li, he was a silver member of the club. He booked the private room himself, so it's normal for them to give him a bottle of red wine." His face was glowing. This time, he had shown his face and made a fortune. When he spoke of young Master Li, he felt a sense of honor. Lu Hang said in his heart, "Young Master Li is so kind. I have to thank him when I get back. What should I give him? If it was too cheap, it wouldn't be worth it." As Xia Ruofei had hinted when he entered the room, the lobby manager did not give any special instructions to the waiter. Hence, she did not know what was going on. She brought the red wine to Lu Hang and asked him to check the label. Lu Hang waved his hand. "There's no need to look. You can't possibly fool young Master Li's guests with fake wine, right?" The waitress didn't know who young Master Li was, but her professionalism made her smile. After getting Lu Hang's consent, she opened the wine with a wine opener, poured a little into the wine glass, and asked Lu Hang to try it. This time, Lu Hang didn't refuse Yingying's attention, he loved doing this. He pretended to take the wine glass, but he finished it in one gulp. Then he closed his eyes and said after a while, "Good wine." Lu Hang had been brewing his emotions for a long time, but he did not say anything solid. Moreover, his one gulp posture was quite like the state of a drinking contest in a food stall. The waiter almost could not help but laugh. Lu Hang was not aware of it. He shouted, "Hurry up and pour some for each of them. Everyone, try this $1,500 red wine." "Yes, sir," the waiter said respectfully. After everyone's wine was poured, Lu Hang said, Come. Let's have a taste. It's not easy to get such good red wine." He was speaking from the bottom of his heart. As a section chief in the unit, he had to entertain a lot of people, but he had never tasted red wine that was worth tens of thousands of yuan. "Let me tell you, young Master Li is the only one who has a lot of influence. For ordinary people, they might not even sell this rare red wine even if they pay for it, let alone give it to them." Lu Hang continued to brag about the young Master Li, who made him proud. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into the young Master Li who had a huge reputation. He had the pride of pointing out the country in front of his junior high school classmates and felt that he had completely surpassed Xia Ruofei. He did not know that Xia Ruofei was looking at him as if he was a clown. However, these students naturally had to say some words of flattery, which made Lu Hang's face even more radiant. He felt that he had finally gotten back at them, and his heart was extremely happy. After everyone had played for a while, the door of the private room was pushed open again. Before the person arrived, a forthright voice was heard, "Ha ha ha. Brother Xia, why didn't you give me a call before you came to my club? Don't be so polite." Xia Ruofei could not help but smile bitterly. Sure enough, the next moment, Xia Ruofei saw the chubby President Zheng appear at the door with a smile on his face. Beside him was the charming young woman, the lobby manager. Although Yuan Lily and the others didn't know the identity of President Zheng, they could tell that he was an extraordinary man at first glance, so they all stopped their entertainment and even stopped singing. President Zheng looked at Xia Ruofei and said with a smile, "Brother Xia, this Plum Blossom Hall is too simple and crude. I've already had people prepare the honorable hall. Would you and your friend please move there?" Xia Ruofei stood up with a bitter smile on his face and said, "President Zheng, I'm here today to eat and drink with my classmates, you don't have to be so polite. Actually, this private room is quite good." Then, Xia Ruofei introduced her to Yuan Lily and the others. "Students, this is Boss Zheng from the West River Moon Club. President Zheng, these are my middle school classmates. Today can be considered our 10th graduation anniversary gathering. Hello, everyone," President Zheng said with a smile, then he gestured to the lobby manager. The lobby manager immediately handed over a wine glass. It was a small red wine glass, about 3 taels in capacity, and filled with white wine. "Everyone here is Brother Xia's friend, so you're my friend as well." President Zheng raised his glass and said, "Today, you've come to my West River Moon Club. It's our fault for not being able to host you well. This glass of wine is for everyone, as an apology. You guys do as you please, I'll do it." After saying that, President Zheng raised his head and drank the entire glass of white wine. Then, without changing his expression, he showed the bottom of the glass to everyone. When Xia Ruofei's classmates heard that the fat man in front of them was the boss of the top class club that Lu Hang had praised to the heavens, and that President Zheng actually attached so much importance to Xia Ruofei and toasted everyone with a big glass of white wine the moment he arrived, they all stood up and drank. Only Lu Hang's reaction was half a beat slower. His face was red and white, and his brain was still in a state of shock. It was as if he had lost his ability to think. He just raised his glass and drank with his classmates mechanically. President Zheng did not notice Lu Hang. In fact, all his politeness and thoughtfulness were directed at Xia Ruofei. All his attention was naturally on Xia Ruofei. "Brother Xia," President Zheng asked with a smile, "I asked Little Meng to send you a bottle of wine just now. Are you satisfied with it?" The private room suddenly became very quiet, and Lu Hang's face was even redder. He wanted to find a hole in the ground and hide in it. It was so embarrassing. He had no idea how to face his classmates who were just flattering him. Xia Ruofei was not surprised at all. He smiled and said, "It's a very good red wine. President Zheng, you're very thoughtful. It's good that Brother Xia likes it." President Zheng laughed and then asked, "You really don't need to change to another private room. There's really no need for that. Plum Blossom Hall is fine. Thank you, President Zheng," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. "All right." President Zheng didn't force her and just said straightforwardly, "All the expenses for tonight are free. Everyone, eat and drink to your heart's content. I won't disturb your class reunion." "Thank you, President Zheng," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. President Zheng gave everyone another toast and then politely took his leave. After he left, the atmosphere in the private room became a little strange. Everyone still heard Lu Hang's bragging and young Master Li, who was said to be extremely awesome. Now that the truth was out, Lu Hang's previous showing off had undoubtedly become a big joke. Lu Hang's face was the ugliest. He lowered his head for a long time before forcing a smile and saying, I'm not feeling well, so I'll go back first. Everyone, take your time." After he finished speaking, he left the room as if he was escaping. He did not dare to look at Xia Ruofei again. Compared to Lu Hang's sorry state, Xia Ruofei was much calmer. Whether it was when Lu Hang was bragging before or now, he always had a calm expression. After Lu Hang left, the awkward atmosphere in the room was swept away, and everyone became lively. Xia Ruofei had successfully stolen the spotlight again and became the focus of the crowd. Even Yuan Lily, who was supposed to be the main character, was very curious. "Ruofei, tell me the truth. What do you do?" Yuan Lily said with a smile. The students also joined in. "Yup. Even the boss of the West River Moon Club is so polite to you, and you still say you're a vegetable farmer. You're even hiding it from your old classmate, that's not very nice." Xia Ruofei smiled bitterly and said, everyone, I'm not lying to you. I'm just a vegetable farmer. I'm not lying. The only reason I know President Zheng and President Ling is because they bought my vegetables. Is it really that simple? It's that simple. I swear, Xia Ruofei said. Since when did vegetable suppliers become so awesome? What kind of vegetables are you selling? Guan Ping laughed as he said this. He then asked suspiciously, It can't be that peach blossom vegetables, right? Xia Ruofei smiled noncommittally. No way. Peng Hao exclaimed. Was it really Taoyuan vegetables? Ruofei, you're really awesome. It hasn't been long since he returned from the military. And you've already created such a heaven-defying product. The students were also amazed. They had just tasted paradise vegetables and knew how popular it was in Rong City. They didn't expect the supplier of paradise vegetables to be among them, and it was even the most inconspicuous-looking Xia Ruofei. Naturally, many people came to Xia Ruofei for a drink. Even though he was a good drinker, he had to leave the private room by using the excuse of peeing. In fact, drinking was not the most important thing. He was not used to the compliments. Xia Ruofei could not understand why Lu Hang was so keen on being in the limelight. Actually, there was a bathroom in the private room, but Xia Ruofei still went outside. Not long after Xia Ruofei left, Peng Hao also stood up and left the private room. Yingying had drunk too much tonight, so he wanted to go out for some fresh air. Walking out of the private room, the wind from the central air conditioner in the corridor made Peng Hao feel a little dizzy. He looked up at the sign and walked to the bathroom with heavy steps. As he passed by the door of a private room, Peng Hao felt his head spinning. He stood still and leaned against the wall, wanting to catch his breath. At this moment, the door of the private room was opened as a 25-year-old man walked out with his arm around the slim waist of a gorgeously dressed woman. The woman was holding a wine glass in her hand and was feeding the man wine with a coquettish smile. The two of them didn't look at where they were going and bumped into Peng Hao. Caught off guard, Peng Hao's entire body fell to the floor. Although the corridor was also covered with a thick carpet, Peng Hao was also in a sorry state after the fall. Although the man and woman did not fall, they were also frightened. The woman poured the glass of red wine in her hand onto the man's expensive suit. The red wine on his white suit was particularly eye-catching. The woman shrieked in fear, while the man's expression was even more unsightly. He strode over to Peng Hao, who was still in a daze from the fall, and cursed, "Don't you have eyes when you walk? Don't you know that a good dog doesn't block the way?" The man in white was called Deng Ming. He was the son of a deputy mayor of Sanshan City. Although Deputy Mayor Deng was not a regular person and his ranking in the government was relatively low, he was still a big shot in Sanshan City. Relying on his father's connections, Chil Deng opened a consulting company in Sanshan City and became the boss behind the scenes. The so-called consulting company, to put it bluntly, was to help some people settle bidding, approval, and other things that ordinary people would find difficult to do, but he could do it easily. He made money quite quickly. Today, Deng Ming was singing in a private room with a few friends, and his evil fire was aroused by the private room princess beside him. He was about to bring her upstairs to vent his fire, but he didn't expect to bump into Pang Hao as soon as he went out. Moreover, his expensive zilli suit was stained with a large wine stain. It was basically useless now. How could Deng Ming not be angry? Pang Hao, who was the one who was knocked down, naturally couldn't hold back his anger when he heard Deng Ming's unpleasant words. He stood up and said, "How can you be so unreasonable? You were the ones who bumped into me, so how is it my fault now?" "Bullshit." Deng Ming was furious. "Am I as blind as you? You're such a big fat man standing here, how can I not see you crash into me? You." Pang Hao was so angry that he couldn't speak. He had never seen such an unreasonable person before. He had clearly knocked into someone, but not only did he not apologize, he even made a false accusation against the other party. "You what? Do you know how much my suit costs?" Deng Ming looked at Pang Hao contemptuously and said, $8,000. "Now that the clothes are ruined, you better compensate me. You've gone crazy thinking about money." Pang Hao was so angry that he laughed. "You want me to compensate you? You should count yourself lucky that I didn't ask you for compensation. Damn fatty, are you trying to cheat?" The flirtatious private room princess immediately said, "Why don't you find out who young Master Deng is? You want to leave without paying for dirtying his clothes." The glass of red wine had spilled on Deng Ming's body from her hands. If she did not catch Pang Hao, Deng Ming would probably take his anger out on her later, so she spared no effort to help him. "You're simply unreasonable," Pang Hao said angrily. Then, he turned around and was about to leave. He didn't want to continue pestering such rude and unreasonable people. It was better to leave immediately. He knew that these two people would never apologize even if he continued to pester them. And how could Deng Ming let Pang Hao go so easily? He grabbed Pang Hao's clothes and said, "Mother Fcker. You still dare to run? If you don't pay up today, don't even think about going anywhere." Even if Pang Hao was a clay bodhisattva, he would still be a little angry. He flung Deng Ming's hand away and glared at him. What's wrong? He wanted to fight. Come on. Who's afraid of who? Although Pang Hao was fat, he was tall and big. Deng Ming's small body, which had been hollowed out by wine and women, was naturally not his opponent. Deng Ming took a step back and shouted toward the private room, "Yi Linian, are you dead? Hurry up and come out." The door of the private room opened, and a young man in a black suit with a cold face walked out. At the same time, a few men with disheveled clothes and reeking of alcohol also came out. They were all Deng Ming's scoundrels. The young man in the black suit had no expression on his well-defined face. He stood straight like a javelin and exuded a cold aura. He was obviously someone who had experienced life and death battles and had seen blood. He walked to Deng Ming's side and asked, "Boss, what's your order?" Deng Ming stretched out his hand and pointed at Pang Hao. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Go! Beat him up! Beat him up so badly that even his mother won't be able to recognize him." Yi Linian didn't move. He calmly said, "Boss, my duty is to protect your safety, not to act as a fighter. I can't do anything illegal." When Deng Ming heard this, he was even more furious. He turned his head and cursed, "Yi Linian, is your brain damaged? You're my bodyguard, and I'm the one paying your salary. Now that I'm being bullied, what's wrong with letting you go and teach him a lesson?" "Sorry, boss. If this person threatens your personal safety, I'll definitely take action." Yi Lingyun replied neither obsequiously nor haughtily, "But you want me to beat up an ordinary person? This is an order outside the scope of the contract. I refuse to execute it." Deng Ming squinted his eyes and looked at Yi Lingyun for a few seconds. Yi Lingyun's expression did not change. He stood upright beside him and did not avoid his murderous gaze. "I don't want to waste my breath on you," Deng Ming said coldly. "I'll give you two choices. First, go and cripple that damn fatty immediately. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. Second, get the F***ck out of my sight right now." Yi Linian was also very straightforward. He took 2 steps back and said, I can't go against my own principles. I choose the second option. A few of Deng Ming's scoundrels immediately burst into laughter, and someone even whistled. Young Master Deng, your bodyguard has quite the personality. Haha, this kid is a bit of a tiger. You can't even tell who the boss is. Young Master Deng, I'll introduce you to a few bodyguards later. They'll definitely be much more obedient than this bejeweled weapon. Deng Ming was so angry that he laughed out loud. He nodded and said, all right, Yi Lingyun, you're fired. You can get lost now. Also, I'll tell my friends that in the future, even if you can get a job as a security guard in Sanshan City, I'll take your last name, let alone be a bodyguard. The vengeful Deng Ming was disobeyed by his bodyguard in front of so many friends. Naturally, he hated Yi Lingyun to the extreme. Yi Lingyun remained expressionless and said calmly, Mr. Deng, it's not a problem to fire me. It's your business how you want to shut me out, but I've worked for you for 7 days. According to the contract, my monthly salary is 20,000 yuan. You have to pay me 5,000 yuan. If you pay me, I'll leave. You still dare to ask me for money. Deng Ming was so angry that he laughed. Are you out of your mind? Yi Lingyun's expression turned cold as he exuded a chilly aura. He took a step forward and stared into Deng Ming's eyes as he spoke word by word, are you sure you want to renege on your debt? Deng Ming's heart tightened for no reason. He recalled the scene when Yi Lingyun easily knocked down more than a dozen burly men when he was applying for the job. He knew that his small body was not even enough to deal with Yi Lingyun's finger. Moreover, after 6 or 7 days of contact with Yi Lingyun, Deng Ming knew that Yi Lingyun was a man of few words, but he had definitely seen blood and was the kind of person who was ruthless. When such a person pushed him into a corner, he would do anything. He was a person of status, and there was no need to compete with such a desperado. At the thought of this, Deng Ming pretended to be magnanimous and waved his hand. Forget it, it's just 5,000 yuan. I'll give it to you, just treat it as a beggar. Hey, you guys, stop watching. Who brought cash? Give me 5,000 yuan first. Deng Ming said to a few of his scoundrels. Although these people used their cards most of the time when they came out to play, they would more or less bring some cash with them. Very quickly, they had gathered 5,000 yuan. Deng Ming passed the 5,000 yuan to Yi Lingyun and said in disgust, I'll give you the money, so don't bother me anymore. Get lost. Yi Lingyun took the money and meticulously counted it twice. After confirming that there was no mistake, he put it in his pocket and turned to walk out of the club without any unnecessary words. At this moment, a voice rang out, how lively. Did I miss something good? When Pang Hao heard this voice, his uneasy heart immediately settled down. Yi Lingyun, who was walking out, heard the familiar voice. He trembled and turned around. He saw a smile in Xia Ruofei's eyes as he looked back at him. Yi Lingyun's cold face was filled with excitement. With a look of disbelief, he shouted, Instructor Xia. Xia Ruofei smiled at Yi Lingyun and walked over. He flicked his finger, and a half-smoked cigarette accurately flew to the extinguished area on top of the trash can. It was inserted into the small hole, and the cigarette end was immersed in the water, making a sizzling sound. Xia Ruofei walked to Pang Hao's side and said with a smile, Little fatty, what happened? I didn't even finish a cigarette before I was attracted by your loud voice. In fact, Xia Ruofei had arrived earlier than this. While Deng Ming and Pang Hao were tugging at him, he had already reached the corner of the corridor. However, when he saw Yi Lingyun, he stopped in his tracks. He wanted to see how Yi Lingyun would handle this. Obviously, Xia Ruofei was satisfied with Yi Lingyun's choice. Xia Ruofei and Yi Lingyun had known each other for 5 years. At that time, he was a first-term sergeant, which was a corporal after the military rank reform, while Yi Lingyun was a new soldier who had just joined the army for a few months. At that time, Xia Ruofei was already an official member of the Lone Wolf Assault Team. Yi Lingyun was a member of the training team and the only private in the entire training team. A first-year recruit could participate in the selection of the Lone Wolf Assault Team. It could be seen that Yi Lingyun's military quality was very strong. That training camp lasted for 3 months, and the elimination process was carried out every day. Xia Ruofei was one of the instructors and class monitors of this training team. Although Yi Lingyun managed to survive until the 3rd month and became one of the last 2 eliminated members, he was still selected by the special forces of the military region as if he had received a treasure. If he could stay in the Lone Wolf Commando selection training for the 3rd month, he would definitely be qualified to be the backbone of an ordinary special forces unit. After 3 months of interaction, Xia Ruofei and Yi Lingyun were naturally very familiar with each other. In the following years, the two often crossed paths in work and even fought together several times in actual military exercises. Yi Lingyun was extremely respectful to the instructor who had brought him into the special forces. In fact, he had always regarded Xia Ruofei as his idol and goal. Xia Ruofei was also very surprised that he would run into Yi Lingyun in Sentience City. Based on his understanding of Yi Lingyun, this talented warrior would be like a fish in water in the special forces. He would stay in the special forces for a long time and might even become a sergeant in the future. How did he suddenly leave the army and become a private bodyguard? Xia Ruofei's heart was also filled with questions, but now was obviously not the time to reminisce. He planned to ask Yi Lingyun what was going on after he came down. Peng Hao explained what had just happened to Xia Ruofei. "Are you hurt?" Xia Ruofei glanced at Deng Ming nonchalantly and asked Peng Hao. "I'm fine." Peng Hao grinned. "It's just that they won't let us go. He said I dirtied his high-end suit and wanted me to pay $8,000. Xia Ruofei nodded and looked at Yi Lingyun. "Xiao Yi, is this your boss? 1 minute ago, I was. Now, I'm not," Yi Lingyun said. "I know." Xia Ruofei shrugged. Then, he stared at Deng Ming and said indifferently, "Apologize to my friend." Deng Ming had been holding back his anger for a long time. He immediately shouted, "Who the hell are you? Why are you acting like a big-tailed wolf? And you want me to apologize? I'll f***ck you." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Lingyun suddenly moved. Deng Ming only felt a blur in front of his eyes. Before he could even look down on Yi Lingyun's movements, Yi Lingyun was already in front of him. His hand was like an iron pincher, gripping his throat. Following that, Deng Ming heard Yi Lingyun's cold voice, "Deng Ming, watch your mouth. If you dare to disrespect Instructor Xia again, I'll break your neck." "Yi Lingyun, are you crazy?" Deng Ming was so frightened that he started wailing. "You dare to attack me? Don't you know who my dad is?" Xia Ruofei couldn't help but laugh. "This person actually doesn't know who his father is. Don't ask us about this. If you really can, you can ask your neighbor Uncle Wang. No, it should be Uncle Song from next door." Peng Hao couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. Even Deng Ming's scoundrel friends almost couldn't hold back their laughter. Only Yi Lingyun remained indifferent. "I don't care who your father is. I only know that I'll teach whoever disrespects Instructor Xia a lesson." In the shadow of the corner of the corridor, the head of security of the West River Moon Club, Shen Hu, had been closely watching the situation here. The guests in the club were all people of status. Under normal circumstances, when there was a conflict, the club would not immediately step in. After all, both sides had strong backgrounds, and it was easy for the club to be at odds with both sides. Only when the conflict escalated and reached an irreconcilable stage would the club step in to mediate. Therefore, after Shen Hu received the report, he had been here for a while. However, he had been hiding in the dark and observing closely. Now that he saw Yi Lingyun suddenly attacking Deng Ming, Shen Hu's expression changed slightly. He was ready to go out and separate the two parties in the conflict and then find a way to appease them. Just as he turned the corner, he suddenly saw Xia Ruofei's figure. His face froze and he pulled his foot back. Then, he quickly took out his phone and called President Zheng. "Tiger, what's the situation?" President Zheng asked. "Boss, it seems a little complicated." Shen Hu hesitated for a moment before saying, "I just saw Mr. Xia. He seems to be on the opposite side of young Master Deng." "What?" President Zheng also frowned. "What's the situation now?" "Not good. It seems like both sides are about to fight," Shen Hu said. "President Zheng, what should we do?" President Zheng fell into deep thought. Xia Ruofei was his strategic partner and had a close relationship with Tianhilan's family. President Zheng naturally wanted to rope him in. But Deng Ming was not to be trifled with either. The deputy mayor's son could be considered a rich second generation in Sentience City. Furthermore, this kind of rich kid had always been incapable of achieving anything, so it was definitely not wise to offend him. President Zheng's brain was spinning rapidly. Suddenly, he had an idea and quickly said, "Tiger, you don't have to worry about this. Just stand there and watch. Unless there's a bloody conflict, you don't have to do anything." Then, President Zheng hung up the phone and turned to the lobby manager next to him. "Xiaomeng, isn't Mayor Wu of Changping holding a banquet for his old colleagues at the Bright Moon Hall? Go and report this to her immediately. Be quick." "President Zheng, is this appropriate?" Little Dream hesitated. He was the son of the deputy mayor. Why would County Head Wu do this? "You don't need to worry about that." President Zheng said, "Let's go now. Remember to mention Brother Shah's name." "Oh, okay." Little Dream didn't dare to say anything more and quickly ran out. The two sides were already in a state of mutual hostility. Xia Ruofei had a faint smile on his face as he said, "Little Yi, let him go first." "Yes, Instructor Xia," Yi Linyan replied. Then, he looked at Deng Ming coldly and released his hand. Deng Ming was breathing in the fresh air while rubbing his neck with his hands, looking at Yi Linyan with a venomous look. However, Yi Linyan turned a blind eye and walked directly behind Xia Ruofei, staring coldly at Deng Ming and his gang. Deng Ming looked at Yi Linyan with a little fear. He estimated that he and a few of his scoundrels were not enough to deal with Yi Linyan alone, especially when Yi Linyan's ruthlessness made him feel scared. Therefore, he also had the intention to retreat. In any case, as long as they were in Sanshan City's territory, young Master Deng would be able to find out the background of those people. When the time came, he would just casually say something and there would be plenty of ways to deal with them. There was no need to risk his life now. After making up his mind, Deng Ming snorted and said, "Damn fatty, you're lucky. I'll let you off today. Brothers, let's go back and continue drinking," Deng Ming said to his scoundrel friends. After he finished speaking, he looked deeply at Xia Ruofei and the other two. He did not hide the hatred in his heart at all. Then, he turned around and walked towards the private room. "Stop." Xia Ruofei's lips curled into a cold smile. "Did I say you could leave?" Deng Ming stood still and slowly turned around. He stared at Xia Ruofei viciously and said, "I didn't ask this damn fatty to compensate me. Do you think I'm too easy to talk to? Go out and find out who I am first. Even if you're taking advantage of me, you still have to find a good partner. You knocked down my friend, insulted him, and even asked him to pay for it. I just want you to apologize, and you're taking advantage of me." Xia Ruofei said sarcastically, "I really don't know who you are. However, I've traveled the world with reason. It doesn't matter who you are." This was Xia Ruofei's temper. If others opened their hearts to him, he would also open his heart to others. Peng Hao had been his good friend for many years and had stood up for him many times during the class reunion. Naturally, Xia Ruofei saw him as a brother. Since Peng Hao had been wronged, Xia Ruofei would definitely help him get back at him. As for Deng Ming's identity, to be honest, he really didn't care. Deng Ming gritted his teeth. "I forgot to remind you." Xia Ruofei rudely interrupted Deng Ming's words. "If you keep saying, 'I'm your father,' I can't guarantee that I won't make your face swell first. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me?" Deng Ming's eyes were spitting fire as he said, "Don't think that you're great just because you're skilled. There are some people you can't afford to offend." Yi Lingyun was enough to make Deng Ming afraid. Since Yi Lingyun called this fair and clean looking young man an instructor, his skills must be no worse than Yi Lingyun's. This was also an important reason why Deng Ming had been suppressing his anger. Otherwise, with his temper, he would have already called his scoundrels to gang up on him and give him a beating. "You talk too much nonsense." Xia Ruofei pouted and said, "I'll give you two choices. 1. Apologize to my friend. 2. I'll beat you up until you apologize to my friend. You can choose." Xia Ruofei's tone was exactly the same as Deng Ming's when he spoke to Yi Lingyun. In fact, he was even more arrogant than Deng Ming. Deng Ming was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. He glared at Xia Ruofei fiercely and panted as he said, "Good, you have guts. I'll play with you to the end today." He then turned around and said, "Dahua, call old Zheng from West River Moon. Tell him that if he continues to play dead, I'll bring people here tomorrow to seal off this damn club of his. Changqing, call Biao and tell him that I told him to come over with his men. Tell him that if he doesn't show up in 10 minutes, he can forget about staying in the 3 mountains. Deng Ming looked at Xia Ruofei ferociously and said, "Come on. If you have the guts, try and touch my finger." "Ruofei, forget it, forget it," Pang Hao said from the side. He could tell that Deng Ming had a powerful background. If this matter was blown out of proportion, Xia Ruofei would definitely be implicated. As a brother, he naturally did not want to see such a thing happen. Deng Ming sneered and said, "Now you're scared. I'm telling you, it's too late. Come and hit me if you dare." Xia Ruofei couldn't help but laugh. "I've seen people proposing to me. I've never thought that someone would ask for a beating. There's really no such thing as the most despicable, only even more despicable." As soon as he finished speaking, he exerted a little force on his feet and his whole body shot out like lightning. He arrived in front of Deng Ming almost instantly. Then, 2 crisp slaps sounded. Deng Ming stood in place in a daze, even forgetting the burning pain on his face. He didn't expect Xia Ruofei to hit him without any hesitation. Yi Lingyun, on the other hand, was watching Xia Ruofei's back. Xia Ruofei's speed just now had made his eyes light up, and his heart was filled with admiration. "You keep calling me your father. Whose father are you?" Xia Ruofei said coldly. "I did remind you, but your pig brain doesn't have a good memory." Deng Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He had been slapped in the face by Xia Ruofei in front of so many friends. It was a great humiliation. "Mother Cker. Go all out with him. Let's attack together," Deng Ming shouted. Just as Deng Ming's scoundrels were about to rush forward, a cold voice rang out, "Stop." Wu Liqian, the new deputy head of Chengping County, was wearing a fitting suit and walked quickly between the two groups of people. She was slightly out of breath, and there was a little sweat on her bun. It was obvious that she had rushed over quickly. Wu Liqian had some alcohol that night, so her face was white with a tinge of red. When she panted, her full chest rose and fell, adding a bit of mature charm to her. Deng Ming looked at Wu Liqian's perky breasts greedily and said, "So it's County Head Wu." Wu Liqian had previously been Tianhilan's secretary for a long time, and Tianhilan's position at the time was the mayor. She was Deng Ming's colleague, so Deng Ming naturally knew Wu Liqian. Wu Liqian glanced at Deng Ming indifferently and nodded slightly, but her attitude was obviously very calm. Then, she looked at Xia Ruofei and asked with a frown, "Ruofei. What's going on? Sis Wu, you're here too." Xia Ruofei smiled and said, "My friend was bumped into by Mr. Deng. Not only did he not apologize, but he also insulted my friend. I'm trying to reason with him." "Xiao Deng, is that so?" Wu Liqian asked with a frown. "So you know this kid, Mayor Wu?" Deng Ming immediately said. "Things were not as he said. It was that fat guy who hit me. Look, my clothes are all stained with red wine. And you saw it too, that kid hit me first." He glared at Xia Ruofei and continued, "County Head Wu, since you know him, then please uphold justice. Now, it's me, Deng Ming, who got hit by him. Tell me what to do. You're quite good at twisting the truth." Xia Ruofei smiled. Then, he pointed at the top of Deng Ming's head and said, "Do you see what that is? A surveillance camera. Let's go check the surveillance footage now. If my friend really hit you, I'll pay for your suit and give you an explanation for hitting you." Then, Xia Ruofei paused, stared at Deng Ming, and said coldly, "If it's like what my friend said, that you're the one who knocked him down and made a false accusation, what do you say? I think this is a good idea." Wu Liqian smiled and asked, "Xiao Deng, what do you think? The surveillance cameras won't lie. If Ruofei's friend is in the wrong, I won't help him." Deng Ming was immediately at a loss for words. He knew very well who was right and who was wrong. After hemming and hawing for a while, Deng Ming said, "I drank some wine just now, so I can't really remember. But even if I accidentally touched that fatty, so what? Does that mean he can hit people as he wishes? When it comes to you, it's called, accidentally." Xia Ruofei sneered. "What a double standard. You were begging me to hit you just now. You." Deng Ming was furious. "County Head Wu, you've seen his attitude. It's not that I'm not giving you face. Chong Qing, call the police. Didn't he say that there were surveillance cameras? There's irrefutable evidence that he hit me just now." "All right." The long-haired young man behind Deng Ming grinned and took out his phone to call the police. Wu Liqian frowned and said, "Xiao Deng, there's no need to call the police. It's just a little friction, why make a mountain out of a molehill?" Then, Wu Liqian said to Xia Ruofei, Ruofei, it's not right for Xiao Deng to bump into your friend, but you've already vented your anger just now. Can you give Sis Wu some face and let this matter go? Xia Ruofei shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, since Sis Wu has spoken, of course I have no problem with that. Peng Hao wasn't injured anyway. Deng Ming, on the other hand, had been slapped twice. His molars must have loosened. Xia Ruofei didn't hold back at all. No matter how he looked at it, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. Deng Ming sneered, County Head Wu, aren't you being too obvious with your bias? I, Deng Ming, have never suffered such a big loss in my life. Just a little friction and you call it that. Evergreen, what are you doing? Aren't you going to call the police? Deng Ming said to the long-haired young man with a frown. Obviously, he was not going to give Wu Liqian any face. Seeing this, Wu Liqian's expression turned cold and she said indifferently, Xiao Deng, you should reconsider. It's a waste of police resources to call the police over such a small matter. Then, she paused for a moment before she said meaningfully, by the way, I heard that you have a big investment project in Changping County. I want to thank you for your support in the economic development of Changping. The threat in his words was already very obvious, so Wu Liqian didn't continue to make it clear. She just looked at Deng Ming quietly. Deng Ming, who had an unforgiving look on his face, immediately frowned when he heard this. The look in his eyes as he looked at Wu Liqian became complicated, and his mind was spinning rapidly. He had indeed invested a few million yuan in a project in Changping County a few days ago. Wu Liqian's words carried a faint threat, and Deng Ming immediately became vigilant. Could it be that she really dared to cause trouble for my project? Deng Ming said in his heart. He quickly analyzed the situation and was very depressed to find that Wu Liqian seemed to really have the confidence. Behind her stood Tian Hilan, a member of the Standing Committee of the Provincial Party Committee and the leader of the Three Mountains, while his father was only a deputy mayor who was ranked at the bottom. If Wu Liqian really wanted to stand up for him, his father, the deputy mayor, might not be able to do anything. A county official was not as good as the current one. No matter how powerful Deputy Mayor Deng was, he couldn't directly interfere with the deputy county head of Changping County, especially when the deputy county head had such a terrifying background. After weighing the pros and cons, the expression on Deng Ming's face changed again and again. In the end, he said with great unwillingness, County Head Wu, since you've stepped in, I'll give you face. Let's end this matter here. Wu Liqian finally smiled and said, thank you, Xiao Deng. Deng Ming looked at Xia Ruofei and the rest with a dark expression, then said to his scoundrel friends, let's go. Wu Liqian pondered for a moment and said, Xiao Deng, wait a minute. Let's talk in private. Do you have any other instructions, Mayor Wu? Deng Ming asked, frowning. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Wu Liqian's use of his project in Changping County as a threat. Wu Liqian smiled and motioned for Deng Ming to follow her. When they arrived at a place where no one was around, Wu Liqian said in a low voice, Xiao Deng, I really hope that today's matter will end here. You know what I mean. County Head Wu, isn't that all? Deng Ming asked. I've already followed your instructions and endured being slapped in the face. What else do you want? When he spoke, the hatred in his eyes was obvious. Wu Liqian knew that a pampered man like him would definitely use all kinds of means to deal with Xia Ruofei. He would also make it so that no one could find any evidence that he was the one who did it. The reason why she called Deng Ming to the side was to help Xia Ruofei solve the problem. Therefore, Wu Liqian said to Deng Ming with a meaningful tone, if that's the case, that's naturally the best. Xiao Deng, I just wanted to give you a reminder. There's no other meaning. By the way, Secretary Tian also admires Ruofei very much. There are some things that you have to consider carefully before doing. Deng Ming's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard Wu Liqian's words. Wu Liqian didn't do much. She patted Deng Ming's shoulder and walked toward Xia Ruofei. Deng Ming stood in a daze for a moment before he called his friends to return to the private room. Xia Ruofei smiled and said to Wu Liqian, Sis Wu, thank you for helping me out. It's nothing, Wu Liqian said with a smile. By the way, this Deng Ming is the son of the government's deputy mayor Deng. He's a bit extreme, so if he comes looking for trouble with you again in the future, you must tell me, and I'll help you to coordinate. Alright. Thank you so much, Sis Wu. Xia Ruofei said. I still have a few old colleagues over there, so I'll go back first. Wu Liqian said with a smile. Wu Liqian did not hesitate to help Xia Ruofei today, even if it might offend Deputy Mayor Deng. She was very clear about Xia Ruofei's position in the Tian family. On this trip back to the Three Mountains, Wu Liqian had also gone to Tianhilan to report her work. Tianhilan had also mentioned that Xia Ruofei was running a farm in Changping County. Although she had not explicitly instructed Wu Liqian to take care of him, her meaning was clear. Based on Wu Liqian's understanding of Tianhilan, Xia Ruofei's position in her heart was definitely not a small one. As Tianhilan's most trusted subordinate, Wu Liqian naturally had to support Xia Ruofei. After Wu Liqian left, Xia Ruofei said to Peng Hao, "Little fatty, I'm leaving too. You tell Yuan Lily and the others." "Ah, you're leaving just like that?" Peng Hao said in surprise, "They're still waiting to offer you a toast." Xia Ruofei smiled and waved his hand. "I can't drink anymore. Please help me apologize to Yuan Lily. Tell her that I have something to do. I'll go back first. By the way, you have my number. We'll contact each other later." "All right then," Peng Hao said. "Ruofei, thank you for today. We're brothers, no need to be so polite." Xia Ruofei patted Peng Hao's shoulder and said, "Lingyun, let's go," he said to Yi Lingyun. "Yes, Instructor Xia," Yi Lingyun replied. The two of them walked side by side toward the elevator, while Peng Hao returned to the private room. In Deng Ming's private room, his gang of scoundrels were adding fuel to the fire with one sentence after another. "Young Master Deng, today's matter is too depressing. Yup, we can't just let it go like this. Who's that kid? How arrogant. I'll ask Abiao to bring a few people to deal with him." Deng Ming was a little annoyed by the people's words. He waved his hand and frowned. All right, let me think about it. Young Master Deng, you're not going to just take this lying down, are you? What did that female county head say to you to make you so afraid? She said that the kid is very close to Secretary Tian. But I think she's probably bluffing. Deng Ming said after taking a deep puff of his cigarette. Absolutely. I've never heard of him in Sanshan City. How could he know Secretary Tian? She's using the tiger's skin as a banner. Young Master Deng, I think so too. Deng Ming nodded. Awa, find someone to investigate this kid's background and find out who he is. All right. Awa grinned. Deng Ming threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stomped on it. He better have some background, otherwise I'll definitely teach him an unforgettable lesson. Xia Ruofei and Yi Lingyun walked out of the West River Moon Club side by side and arrived at the parking lot outside the 3rd Workshop and 7th Street. You didn't drink, right? Xia Ruofei asked. No, I didn't, T. All right then, you drive. Xia Ruofei said as he threw the car keys to Yi Lingyun. Yes. Yi Lingyun didn't say much and didn't ask where Xia Ruofei was going. He just took the keys and started the pickup. Xia Ruofei set the navigation route back to Taoyuan Farm on his phone and clipped his phone on the stand above the central console. Yi Lingyun nodded in understanding and drove the pickup truck forward according to the navigation. Xia Ruofei passed another cigarette to Yi Lingyun and took one for himself. The two of them smoked without saying a word and the car was silent. Xia Ruofei stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray when the car was on the highway. He asked, Ling Yun, tell me, why did you suddenly retire from the military when you were doing well? And you've even become someone's personal bodyguard. This isn't your style. Instructor Xia, I'm sorry to have disappointed you. Yi Lingyun said in a low voice. That's nothing. Didn't I leave the army myself? What right do I have to criticize you? Xia Ruofei laughed at himself and said, and I believe you must have your own difficulties. Xia Ruofei knew very well that Yi Lingyun was born to be a Special Forces soldier. From a local youth to a qualified Special Forces soldier, it only took him 6 months. In less than 2 years, he had grown into the backbone of the Special Forces. His natural sensitivity to the Special Forces and his love for the army were unquestionable. As Yi Lingyun drove, he revealed a reminiscing expression and told Xia Ruofei about his retirement. It turned out that Yi Lingyun was planning to stay in the team this year. The Special Forces needed a backbone like him. Even if there was only one sergeant transfer quota this year, they would definitely give him one. However, just as Yi Lingyun was training hard for the officer promotion examination, his father was found to have late-stage dystocia. Yi Lingyun was the only son in the family, and his mother passed away from lung cancer when he was born. For many years, his father did not remarry and raised him alone. Since ancient times, loyalty and filial piety could not be both at once. Yi Lingyun's family savings were quickly used up. Although his comrades from the special forces also organized donations and even the leaders of the army group personally sent him some money, cancer treatment was like a bottomless pit. The money was not enough at all. The most important thing was that there was no one to take care of his seriously ill father. After an intense mental struggle, Yi Lingyun, as the only son in his family, finally decided to apply for retirement. He wanted to bid farewell to his beloved Green Army uniform and the Green Army camp that was a straight line plus a square. He knew about his family's special circumstances and the Army's special affairs. It was not time for him to leave the Army yet, but he was allowed to leave in advance. Yi Lingyun did his best to take care of his seriously ill father when he got home. Even if his father wanted to give up on treatment after knowing his condition, Yi Lingyun would not allow it. He had spent all his retirement allowance and sold everything in his family. He also had a huge debt. In the end, Yi Lingyun couldn't save his father. Not long ago, his father had left. After burying his father, Yi Lingyun took a train to the south and arrived at Sanshan City. He hoped to earn money as soon as possible to pay off the 100,000 yuan he borrowed from his relatives and friends. However, he had been in the army for more than 4 years, and all he had learned was killing. He didn't have a college degree, so he was rejected time and time again. Fortunately, he was quite lucky. When he went to Deng Ming's company to apply for a security guard job, he was recruited as a private bodyguard by Deng Ming due to his good skills. His monthly salary was 20,000 yuan. He had only worked for a week, but because of today's incident, he was directly kicked out of the house by Deng Ming. After Yi Lingyun finished, he continued, "Instructor Xia, your comrades already know that you're sick." At that time, everyone was discussing how to find time to visit you at the military general hospital. I didn't expect you to leave the army so soon. Oh right, your illness. How's the situation? Xia Ruofei smiled. I've tried Chinese medicine after I came back. It's quite effective. There shouldn't be any major problems. Oh, really? That's great. Yi Lingyun, who always had a cold face, couldn't help but show a happy expression. Ling Yun, what are your plans for the future? Xia Ruofei asked with a smile. I haven't thought about it yet, I'll just take it one step at a time. Yi Lingyun said, I owe 140 to 150,000 yuan for my father's treatment. I'll definitely find a job and work hard to earn money first. I'll think about other things after I pay off the money. Xia Ruofei nodded and said, work for me. We brothers, in arms know each other very well, it's better than being bodyguards for a private boss. Instructor Xia, you. Yi Lingyun was a little surprised. After all, Xia Ruofei had just retired from the military for a few months and was so seriously ill. It was probably a problem for him to support himself. Xia Ruofei smiled. I started my own business after I retired from the military. I have my own farm now. If you don't mind, you can come and work with me. Of course I'm willing to. Yi Lingyun said, then hesitated before continuing, but Instructor Xia, I don't know anything other than what I learned in the army. With your skills, you don't need me to be your bodyguard. I don't need it, but the company does. Xia Ruofei laughed. You'll be fully responsible for the company's security in the future. I'll give you a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan. Is there a problem? Yi Lingyun subconsciously puffed out his chest and said, no problem, instructor. But, 20,000 a month is too high. He hesitated. What's so high about 20,000 yuan a month for our special forces elites? Xia Ruofei waved his hand and said, the company is still in its infancy. I'll give you a raise when it's developed well. The head of security at Paradise Corporation should at least have an annual salary of 1 million. No need, Instructor Xia. 20,000 a month is already a lot. Yi Lingyun chuckled. As the two of them spoke, Yi Lingyun had already driven to the holiday villa in Changping County according to the navigation. Looking at the construction site that was in full swing, Yi Lingyun asked, Instructor, is this your farm? Xia Ruofei nodded and said, it should be finished before the spring festival. You can work for me in peace from now on. We brothers will conquer the world together. Yes, instructor. Yi Lingyun's tone was also a little excited. Xia Ruofei smiled. Ling Yun, we've already left the army. We're no longer soldiers. You don't have to call me Instructor Xia anymore. Just call me Brother Xia. Oh, okay. Brother Xia, Yi Lingyun said. He was clearly not used to this new form of address. Xia Ruofei used the remote control to open the villa's courtyard gate. Yi Lingyun drove the car into the villa's courtyard and parked it. The two of them got out of the car. In the corner of the yard, Lightning heard the sound and immediately came out of its kennel. It threw itself in front of Xia Ruofei affectionately and looked at Yi Lingyun with vigilance. Xia Ruofei pointed at Yi Lingyun. Lightning, he's my brother. We're on the same side. You're not allowed to be so fierce, you know. Lightning was already very understanding. It immediately wagged its tail at Yi Lingyun, obviously trying to please him. Xia Ruofei smiled and patted Lightning's head, telling it to go back to its nest. Then, he brought Yi Lingyun to a guest room on the first floor. He opened the cabinet and took out a brand new quilt and mattress. Ling Yun, you can stay at my house for the time being. Sure, Brother Xia. Yi Lingyun scratched his head and said with a smile, this is my first time living in a big villa. Work hard, and you'll be able to buy your own big villa soon. Xia Ruofei laughed and said, all right, you can go and wash up first. Thank you, Brother Xia. Xia Ruofei went upstairs to his bedroom. After carefully locking the door, he summoned the spirit painting scroll from his palm and took out a small travel bag. The bag was filled with stacks of cash from the vegetable transactions with Shi Zhongyu and Lingji restaurant. Xia Ruofei, who had the spirit map space, did not deposit the money in the bank but kept it in the spirit map space. It was much safer than a bank. Xia Ruofei counted 150,000 and put it in a big plastic bag. Then, he went to the bathroom to take a shower before he took the money and went downstairs. When Xia Ruofei arrived at the guest room on the first floor, Yi Lingyun had already finished bathing. When he saw Xia Ruofei, he quickly stood up and called out, Brother Xia. Xia Ruofei smiled and handed the plastic bag to Yi Lingyun. Take it. What? Yi Lingyun subconsciously took the plastic bag. When he saw the stacks of 100-yuan bills inside, he put the plastic bag down as if he had been electrocuted. Brother Xia, why are you giving me so much money? Use this money to pay off your debt first. Xia Ruofei said. No way. Yi Lingyun quickly said, Brother Xia, I haven't even done a day's work. How can I take so much of your money? This is not appropriate. I didn't give you this money for free. Xia Ruofei said, I'll take it as an advance payment. This. Yi Lingyun was troubled. What's this and that? Xia Ruofei said angrily, what's wrong with a soldier being so wishy-washy? I told you to take it, so just take it. Yes. Yi Lingyun puffed out his chest and said, then. Thank you, Brother Xia. Xia Ruofei smiled and nodded, yes, rest early. Go pay the money back tomorrow, then come back and work in peace. Okay. Yi Lingyun said. He then asked, Brother Xia, what exactly do I do? Xia Ruofei laughed. The company has just been established. Are you afraid that there's no work? Hee. I'm getting such a high salary. I'll feel bad if I don't work. Yi Lingyun scratched his head. Don't worry. There's a lot of things waiting for you to do. Xia Ruofei smiled and said, the first task is to set up the security system of the entire farm. I've made a list before and asked the construction company to help purchase the equipment. Your first task is to ensure the quality of the security equipment. The second is to supervise the installation and debugging process. There can't be any problems. Don't worry, Brother Xia. Yi Lingyun puffed out his chest and said, I promise to complete the mission. Yi Lingyun was definitely an expert in this job, so he was full of confidence, just like how he expressed his determination to his leader in the army. Xia Ruofei smiled and patted Yi Lingyun's shoulder. Of course I'm not worried about you. Alright, let's rest. With that, Xia Ruofei left Yi Lingyun's room and returned to his bedroom upstairs. The next morning, Xia Ruofei passed the car keys to Yi Lingyun and asked him to go to the bank in the city to return the money he owed. Meanwhile, Xia Ruofei completed the transaction of the vegetables supplied to the two families and then went to the construction site for a round of inspection. The main project of the entire farm was basically completed. Now, the workers were mainly doing some equipment debugging of the greenhouse, the laying of road pipelines, the installation of the farm fence, the greenery of the field area, and other finishing work. As Xia Ruofei patrolled, he was also calculating in his heart. Although it was a spur-of-the-moment decision to recruit Yi Lingyun yesterday, it also served as a reminder to Xia Ruofei that it was time for him to recruit some people. The company's structure wasn't urgent, but the farm workers had become a priority. He couldn't take care of such a big farm alone, could he? If that was the case, he might as well plant it in the spirit map space. The experimental planting of the cabbage in the backyard was very successful. After soaking it in the petal solution, the growth rate of the cabbage in the outside world was much faster than that of ordinary species. Moreover, the taste was similar to that of the ordinary space vegetables from before, completely meeting the requirements of mass production. Xia Ruofei's initial plan was to plant these common vegetables and fruits in the outside world. His main goal was to spread the brand, paradise. The precious food, herbs, trees, flowers, and the like were mainly grown in the space. The rarer something was, the more expensive it would be. It was impossible to get a lot of these high-end species at one time. Even if they were planted in the space, it was relatively easy to cover up if they took out a small amount each time. Therefore, there was no need to plant these things in the outside world. Planting them in the realm would undoubtedly increase the efficiency and quality. In fact, Xia Ruofei's spirit map space already had a lot of precious crops. The Phoebe Zhenan, the ginseng from the Changbai Mountains, and the pair of red arowana would all bring him great benefits in the future. Xia Ruofei did not want to delay the recruitment any longer. After Yi Lingyun completed the transaction, Xia Ruofei brought him to Manager Li, who was supervising the construction site. He introduced Yi Lingyun to him and asked Yi Lingyun to check the security system, install, and test it. Then, Xia Ruofei drove the pickup truck away from the farm. On the way, he gave the secretary of the Dongkang village, Ruan Fugi, a call and explained that he was looking for people. He also said that if there were suitable candidates in the village, he would give priority to the recruitment. Ruan Fugi was overjoyed when he heard that. He quickly said that there must be villagers who met the requirements. In this small coastal fishing village, many young people had gone out to do business or work, while many of the older generation lived in the village. Many of them were old and could no longer go out to sea to fish, so they could only idle at home. These people were actually not too old, so they would have no problem working on the farm. Not only were these people fishermen, but many of them were also experienced farmers. Hearing this, Xia Ruofei immediately expressed that he would rush over immediately and asked Ruan Fugi to inform the villagers that those who were interested could go to the village council. When Xia Ruofei drove to the village committee of Dongkang, Ruan Fugi had already gathered many villagers to wait. The moment Xia Ruofei got out of the car, he released a puff of smoke and instantly won the villagers' favor. Ruan Fugi lit up the Zonghua cigarette that Xia Ruofei had given him and took a deep breath before saying, "Boss Xia is here to hire workers today. Let's welcome Boss Xia's speech." The villagers applauded. Xia Ruofei smiled and pressed his hands down. "Everyone, I'm sure you already know that I rented a piece of collective land in our village to open a farm, so we're considered to be from the same village." The villagers immediately laughed out loud. They felt that this boss was quite good and didn't put on any airs. Xia Ruofei continued, "Since we're family, I won't beat around the bush. I'll get straight to the point. For the first batch, I'm going to recruit 15 workers. The main work will be in the field, such as planting vegetables, fertilizing, raising fish, and so on. My requirements are that they are hardworking, honest, and have farming experience. If you have any questions, you can ask me now." Boss Xia, an old farmer in his 50s, raised his hand like a primary school student and asked, "How much are you paying?" Xia Ruofei thought for a while and said, "A normal worker's monthly salary is 5,000 yuan. There are 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. In the future, it can be increased according to the farm's performance and personal performance. In addition, there will be bonuses during the holidays." The moment they heard that the salary was raised to 5,000, the villagers became even more interested. One of them immediately asked, "There are 5 insurances and 1 fund. Wouldn't that be the same as the white-collared workers in the city?" "Boss Xia, is your bag full of food and accommodation?" Xia Ruofei smiled. Lunch is provided on the farm. We have an 8-hour working system. Everyone works during the day and can go home at night. If they had to live on the farm, it was fine. I'll just ask them to build a staff dormitory later. But don't you want to go home and hug your wives? Xia Ruofei's words immediately attracted a burst of laughter. Everyone's impression of this young boss Xia became even better. Then, more people asked a lot of questions, and Xia Ruofei answered them patiently. When he saw that everyone had understood, he smiled and said, "All right, those who are interested in the job can go to Uncle Ruan to sign up. If you have any specialties, you must write them down. I'll give you priority." As soon as Xia Ruofei finished speaking, the villagers immediately surrounded Ruan Fugi and his wife. Most of the villagers were idle at home. Now, they could earn 5,000 a month by working on the farm, and they only had to work during the day. The various benefits that Xia Ruofei had promised were also very good. These conditions were too tempting. Who would not want to do it? Fugi, register mine first. I know how to rear abalones. There's me. I've been farming for more than 10 years, how can you people who go out to fish every day compare to me? Fugi, remember me. The villagers didn't know how to line up, so they just swarmed up, making Ruan Fugi flustered and constantly shouting to maintain order. Xia Ruofei looked at the heated scene in front of him and smiled. He walked to the side, lit a cigarette, and started smoking leisurely. The villagers quickly finished registering, and about 30 to 40 people had applied for the job. Xia Ruofei took the stack of information and said, "Everyone, please wait outside for a moment. Those whose names are called, please enter. I have a few simple questions to ask." "Boss Xia, is this the interview that everyone is talking about?" a villager asked. Xia Ruofei smiled and said, "Almost. I just want to know how everyone is doing." With that, Xia Ruofei gestured to Ruan Fugi and the two of them walked into the village council. The villagers were waiting nervously at the door. Xia Ruofei's offer was so good that everyone naturally wanted to get hired. Actually, Xia Ruofei avoided the crowd mainly because he wanted to hear Ruan Fugi's advice. After being the party secretary for so many years, Ruan Fugi knew the villagers very well and would definitely understand the situation the best. He could not say anything in front of the villagers, but he would not offend anyone if he said it in the village committee. Xia Ruofei directly asked Ruan Fugi to help him choose first. First of all, he would not want people with bad conduct. Xia Ruofei would also not consider those who liked to play tricks and did not put in much effort. In addition, those with special skills in certain areas would be given priority. The last time they had rented the land, Ruan Fugi already knew that Xia Ruofei had a powerful background. Later on, Xia Ruofei had even brought them to eat at the West River Moon Club, which had broadened his horizons. Thus, he didn't dare to hide anything from Xia Ruofei. The preliminary screening was completed very quickly. Then, Xia Ruofei called the villagers in for an interview, one by one. It was nothing more than to ask about their personal situation, how old they were, how many people were in their family, and what their specialties were. The interview process was completed quickly. With Ruan Fugi's opinion, Xia Ruofei decided on the list of 15 people. He walked out of the village council with the name list and announced the results of the recruitment to the villagers. The villagers who were chosen were naturally overjoyed, while those who were not were somewhat disappointed. Xia Ruofei smiled. "Don't be discouraged. Our farm will continue to expand production in the future. When we need to recruit workers in the future, we will give priority to our Dongkang village. I hope that everyone will be enthusiastic about applying." Under the envious gazes of the villagers, the 15 villagers who had been chosen stayed behind, while the others gradually dispersed. Xia Ruofei smiled and said, "All right, everyone is now my employee at Taoyuan Farm. Tomorrow, everyone will go to the farm to sign the employment contract. Then, you can officially start work." I'll start to pay you today. Boss, let's go work today. I heard from Secretary Ruan that your farm is in the middle of construction, so you'll definitely need manpower." One of the villagers rubbed his hands and laughed. "We don't feel good if we don't work and get paid." Xia Ruofei's new employees all agreed. These villagers were really simple. Their simple concept was to get paid according to work. Since the salary was calculated today, they had to work for the boss today. Otherwise, they wouldn't take the reward for no work. Xia Ruofei laughed, there's a construction team for construction. Everyone, go back and settle your family matters today. You can come back tomorrow to sign the contract. Alright, thank you, boss. The new employees went home happily. Xia Ruofei expressed his gratitude to Ruan Fugi and drove away from the village committee. After returning to the villa, Xia Ruofei gave Ling Qingshe a call and asked her to send him a copy of the employment contract for Ling F&B. Then, he made some changes based on the actual situation of Dao Yuan Farm and printed 15 copies. After she was done, Xia Ruofei saw that there was nothing else to do, so she picked up her phone and gave Peng Hao a call. Ruofei, little fatty, did you guys have fun last night? Xia Ruofei asked with a smile. Very good. President Zheng later got someone to send over a lot of fruit platters and snacks. Peng Hao said, you're the one who ran away at the last minute. The ladies in the class expressed strong indignation and requested that you treat us next time to make up for it. Xia Ruofei laughed and said, sure. No problem. Oh right, Lil, fatty, he asked, there were so many people yesterday, so it wasn't convenient for me to ask you. What's your job now? What good job can a third-rate university graduate like me have? Peng Hao smiled bitterly. I've been working as a salesman in an insurance company for the past 2 years. How's the treatment? Xia Ruofei asked. The base salary is so low that it's outrageous. I can only barely make a living by relying on business commissions. Peng Hao said, that's why I have to run the business as hard as I can. Sigh. Anyway, let's just mix around first. Xia Ruofei teased, little fatty, you sound like you're living in deep water and fire. However, I'm very curious about the fact that you can still maintain such a chubby body despite the pressure of life. This little brother really admires you. Your sister. Peng Hao laughed and scolded, you're rubbing it in, aren't you? Ha ha. Xia Ruofei laughed happily. Then, he asked, seriously, what are your plans for the future? I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any thoughts. Peng Hao said, I kind of regret playing games all day long when I was in college and neglecting my studies. Although the school is average, many of my hard-working classmates are doing well. Peng Hao paused for a moment before continuing. I majored in finance in university, so I'm studying now. I'm preparing to get an accountant's certificate. I'm thinking of changing my career in the future if I have the chance. What future are you waiting for? Come to my company. Xia Ruofei said directly, you're just in time for finance. I'm lacking an accountant. When the company's structure is ready, you'll be the financial director. Ah, Ruofei, you're not joking, right? Peng Hao asked hesitantly, unable to react in time. Little fatty, can I joke about this? Xia Ruofei laughed and said, being the finance director of Paradise Corporation is better than being an insurance agent, right? Xia Ruofei had called Peng Hao with the intention of recruiting him. That was why he wanted to know about Peng Hao's current situation. If Peng Hao was doing well, Xia Ruofei would not have mentioned it. However, since Peng Hao was not satisfied with his current situation, Xia Ruofei decided to pull him in without any hesitation. When Xia Ruofei used people, ability was one thing, but he valued character more. Peng Hao had been his good brother in junior high. After getting to know him the day before, he knew that the little fatty's character was still the same as it had been in the past. He had not changed at all. He could be said to be from the bottom of society, but in order to stand up for Xia Ruofei, he did not hesitate to go against Lu Hang, the son of a government official. This was also an important reason why Xia Ruofei trusted him. Peng Hao naturally knew the name of the Paradise Corporation by now. He said, of course I'm happy. But Ruofei, I haven't even passed the accountant's exam yet. If I go to your company, you can take your time to learn if you're not familiar with the business. Besides, aren't you already preparing for the exam? Xia Ruofei said without hesitation, it doesn't matter to me whether I have a certificate or not. The key is that an important position like finance must be filled by a brother that I can trust. Peng Hao was also very touched when he heard this. He immediately said, all right. Ruofei, just because of what you said, I'll resign in a while. Don't worry, I'll make sure everything is in order. If there's any mistake, you'll fire me immediately. It's not that serious. Xia Ruofei said with a smile. Okay, I won't say more. I'll send you the location on WeChat later. Come over first thing in the morning. Alright, see you tomorrow. The next morning, Yi Lingyun went straight to the construction site. The security equipment he ordered had arrived that day, and he was going to get busy. After Xia Ruofei sent the 2 vegetable trucks away, he saw Peng Hao and the 15 new employees who had been recruited yesterday arriving at the villa almost at the same time. Good morning, boss. Hello, boss Xia. The new employees all greeted Xia Ruofei and looked around from time to time. They were very surprised by the modern farm. Xia Ruofei smiled and greeted them. Then, he walked over to Peng Hao and said, "Little fatty, you're early. The opportunity to make a meteoric rise is right in front of us," Peng Hao said with a chuckle. "How could it not come early? You brat." Xia Ruofei lightly punched Peng Hao's chest and said, "Wait for a moment. I have to deal with some things." "All right." Xia Ruofei asked Peng Hao to bring a small table to the courtyard from the living room. Then, he took out the contract that he had printed in advance. Some of the new employees were literate. Although they couldn't fully understand the contract, they could still understand the benefits and treatment. Therefore, everyone quickly signed the contract and pressed their thumbprints. Xia Ruofei also signed and stamped the contract with his company's seal. This employment contract was officially in effect. Initially, Xia Ruofei wanted to give the new employees a few more days off. After all, there was still some work to be done on the farm. A few days' worth of salary was nothing to him. However, these simple fishermen and farmers didn't do anything. In their minds, they were paid to do things. Xia Ruofei had no choice but to let them help out at the construction site. This way, they could more or less improve their work efficiency. After handing the new employees over to Manager Li, who was supervising the construction site, Xia Ruofei handed all the things from the company's finance department, including the account details, the finance seal, and bank transfers to Peng Hao. At this stage, Peng Hao's job was to properly organize the finances of Paradise Corporation, including creating a payroll for new employees and settling the construction funds with the construction party in stages. The settlement of Lingji Food and Drink and Zaijiang Moon Club should also be gradually changed to public transfers. This was enough to keep Peng Hao busy for a while. Xia Ruofei decided to give him 5,000 yuan to buy a decent desktop in the city. Then, he would let Peng Hao use the other guest room on the first floor as the finance department's office. Just like that, everyone was busy with their own things, but Xia Ruofei had a lot of free time. On the morning of the 3rd day, Xia Ruofei was playing with lightning in the villa's courtyard when Yi Lingyun suddenly appeared at the door and said, "Brother Xia, there are 2 cars over there. They seem to be looking for you." "Oh." Xia Ruofei stood up and walked out of the mansion. Yi Lingyun followed closely behind him. In the distance, a black Mercedes-Benz and a silver Mercedes-Benz business car drove over one after another. The car drove straight to the entrance of the courtyard. The door of the Mercedes-Benz opened, and a few capable young men in black suits quickly got out of the car. Xia Ruofei could tell at a glance that these men in black suits were very agile and were definitely trained. He couldn't help but frown. However, when the electric door of the MPV slowly opened with 2 beeps, Xia Ruofei's brows immediately relaxed. This was because he saw Tian Weishin carrying Huan and getting out of the car first, followed by Ma Zhiming. Lu Yu also came out of the car. When Huan saw Xia Ruofei from afar, she immediately broke free from Tian Weishin's arms and ran towards Xia Ruofei with a happy and innocent smile. "Uncle!" Huan shouted happily from afar. This time, his pronunciation was much clearer than it was a few days ago. A gentle smile appeared on Xia Ruofei's face. He squatted down and opened his arms. Wan jumped into his arms and rubbed her pink face against Xia Ruofei's. "Wan, did you miss Uncle?" Xia Ruofei asked as he hugged Wan. "I really want to." Huan answered very seriously. "How much did you miss me?" Huan tilted her head and thought for a moment. She then opened her arms and gestured, "I did think so." After that, the adults who followed them all laughed happily. Even Lu Yu had a rare smile on her face. Xia Ruofei stood up with Wan in his arms and greeted them, "Mr. M.A., Ms. Tian, Lu Yu, how are you?" "Xia Sheng, the environment of your farm is not bad." Ma Zhiming smiled and said, "It seems that you're doing very well in your career." Tian Weishin also smiled and greeted Xia Ruofei. Lu Yu also nodded at Xia Ruofei in greeting. Her expression was much gentler than before. She no longer looked like Xia Ruofei owed her a few $1,000,000. She even had a slight smile on her face. It was obvious that her impression of Xia Ruofei had changed greatly. Xia Ruofei smiled and said to Ma Zhiming, "It's just a small fight, it's not enough to catch Mr. Ma's eyes." Then, he pinched Wanwan's little face and asked, "By the way, Mr. Ms. Tian, has Wanwan finished her medicine? How's the situation?" "Little Xia, the effect of your Chinese medicine is very obvious," Tian Weishan said excitedly. "That's right, Xia Sheng. You're a godly doctor." Ma Zhiming was also very excited. "We're here to thank you." Xia Ruofei smiled and said, Come. Let's talk inside." Yi Lingyun was dumbfounded. He had never heard of Instructor Xia having medical skills, and it seemed like he was very good at it. But why did Instructor Xia always go to the health team when he had a headache in the army? He must have taken a fancy to a beautiful female soldier in the health team. Yi Lingyun guessed in his heart. Xia Ruofei naturally didn't know that the quiet Yi Lingyun's heart was also burning with the flames of gossip. He led the group into the villa's courtyard. Ma Zhiming's bodyguards in black stayed outside the courtyard. Seeing so many people coming in, Lightning, who had been lying there lazily in the sun, suddenly got up. It glanced at the crowd with vigilance and made a whimpering sound. "Lightning, these are my guests. Don't be rude." Xia Ruofei was worried that Lightning would scare people, so he quickly shouted. After hearing Xia Ruofei's words, Lightning immediately resumed its languidness. It glanced at the crowd indifferently, then strolled to the other side of the courtyard where there was more sunlight. It lay down comfortably and continued to bask in the sun. When Huan saw Lightning, whose fur was as smooth as silk, she was elated. She pointed at Lightning with her pink little finger and shouted, "Doggy! Doggy! Wanwan, that dog's name is Lightning." Xia Ruofei smiled and said, "Do you want to play with Lightning?" "I want to," Huan said without hesitation. "All right." Xia Ruofei placed Wanwan on the ground and said with a smile, "Go." Little Xia, this. Tian Weishan couldn't help but worry about the Lightning. It had been very fierce just now. Xia Ruofei smiled. "Madam Tian, don't be afraid. Lightning is very gentle." Then, Xia Ruofei said, "Lightning, play with Wanwan. Don't scare her, okay?" Lightning raised its eyelids and slowly wagged its tail, indicating that it understood. Huan ran to Lightning happily and stroked its smooth fur. Tian Weishan's heart almost jumped out of her throat. However, Lightning seemed to enjoy it. She closed her eyes slightly and let Wanwan touch her. It even gently touched Wanwan with its nose, looking quite docile. The more Wanwan played, the happier she became. In the end, she simply put her arms around Lightning's neck and mumbled something to Lightning. She was trying to remind Lightning that her language skills were still worse than those of other children her age. Tian Weishan looked at it for a while before she slowly relaxed. Xia Ruofei left Yi Lingyun in the courtyard to look after Wanwan while he brought Ma Zhiming, his wife, and Lu Yu into the villa. Everyone took their seats in the living room. Xia Ruofei made tea for the three of them, then sat down and said with a smile, "It seems like Wanwan's condition has improved greatly." Tian Weishan excitedly nodded and said, "That's right, little Xia. Wanwan's condition improved a little every time she took the medicine. It was like a dream to us." Tian Weishan glanced at her daughter, who was playing happily with Lightning in the yard, and continued, "Wanwan's eyes are fine now. She can look into adults' eyes and she can listen to us seriously. She can even communicate normally. It's just that she needs time to recover her language function." As she spoke, Tian Weishan's eyes turned red again. She had been worried sick about her daughter for the past few years and had experienced countless times of hope, disappointment, and even despair. Now that Wanwan had changed so much, it was hard to describe the feelings she had. Ma Zhiming put his arm around his wife's shoulder and patted her gently, saying, "Xia Sheng, we took Wanwan to do a long-range dynamic encephalog yesterday, and the results were very normal. The epileptic waves that had always existed before have all disappeared. The doctor said that this is an important sign that the brain nervous system has returned to normal." "That's great," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. Wanwan was a cute little girl, but she had always lived in her own world. Now that she had recovered, Xia Ruofei was naturally happy for her from the bottom of his heart. I'll prepare another course of Chinese medicine today to consolidate the effects. Xia Ruofei said, I think the problem will be completely solved after 1 or 2 more treatments. Xia Sheng, I can't thank you enough. Ma Jiming said as he held Xia Ruofei's hand tightly. Then, Ma Jiming took out a check from the inner pocket of his suit and handed it to Xia Ruofei. He said, Xia Sheng, I know that you didn't treat Wanwan for money, but this is a gift from the Ma family. You must accept it. Xia Ruofei took the check and saw that it was $1,000,000 Chinese dollars. He pondered for a while and said with a smile without being pretentious, all right, then I won't stand on ceremony. After that, he put the check away. In Xia Ruofei's opinion, 1,000,000 yuan for a complete petal of a strange flower was not too expensive. When Lu Yu saw this, she muttered in her heart, this fellow was truly impolite, not even rejecting the offer. However, even though she said that in her heart, Lu Yu realized that she did not feel disgusted by Xia Ruofei's behavior like she did in the past. On the contrary, she felt that he was a genuine person and not pretentious. She didn't even realize that her impression of Xia Ruofei had changed. Xia Ruofei said, you guys stay here and play with Wanwan for a while. I'll go to the county's traditional Chinese medicine pharmacy to get some medicine and boil it. When the time comes, you can just bring it back and keep it in the cold storage. All right. Sorry to trouble you, Xia Sheng. Ma Jiming quickly said. Xia Ruofei looked at Lu Yu and asked with a smile, young Miss Lu, do you want to come with me to buy medicine today? Lu Yu's pretty face heated up slightly and she said, I'm too lazy to follow. What if you're going to go too? That, I'll have to wait for you for a long time. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but laugh. He picked up the car keys on the coffee table and walked out. At this moment, Ma Jiming's phone suddenly rang urgently. Hello, I'm. Ma Jiming said in Cantonese. No one knew what the person on the other end of the phone said, but Ma Jiming's face suddenly changed and he asked hurriedly, what? How did this happen? My dad's been in good health. Is he in danger? Hurry up and tell me. Okay, I know. Although Xia Ruofei did not understand Cantonese, he could tell that something major had happened when he saw Ma Jiming's expression change. Hence, he also stopped in his tracks and looked at Ma Jiming. Tian Weishan waited for Ma Jiming to hang up the phone and immediately asked anxiously, Jiming, what's wrong with Dad? Ma Jiming was a little dejected, and his eyes were a little red. He calmed his emotions and said to Tian Weishan, Father. He had a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. He's in a deep coma. Ah. Tian Weishan reached out and covered her mouth. After a long while, she muttered, how could this be? Father. He's always been in good health. Weishan, we have to return to the port immediately. Dean Chin said that Dad's condition. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for long. The plane sent by my family has already applied for a return flight. It's now on its way to Sanshan. Let's go to the airport now. Ma Jiming said with a sad expression. All right, let's go. Tian Weishan was also a little flustered. Although her father, in-law had gradually begun to delegate power to Ma Jiming, he was still the pillar of the family business. If her father, in-law was no longer around, Ma Jiming would immediately face a situation of internal and external difficulties. Ma Jiming gently wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and said to Xia Ruofei, Xia Sheng, I'm sorry. My father had a sudden cerebral hemorrhage and we have to rush back to Hong Kong immediately. I'll have to trouble you next time to treat Wanwan. Oh, I'm fine, Xia Ruofei said, you guys should go back. The old man's matter is more important. All right, he said. Ma Jiming and Tian Weishan walked out. Tian Weishan went to the courtyard and picked up Wanwan, who was still not done playing. Everyone walked out of the courtyard together. Naturally, Xia Ruofei sent them all the way to the door. At this moment, Lu Yu suddenly looked at Xia Ruofei and asked, Xia Ruofei, do you have any way to save my uncle's father? Ma Jiming and Tian Weishan immediately stopped in their tracks and looked at Xia Ruofei with hope. Just now, they had been so worried that all they could think of was to get back to Hong Kong as soon as possible. After Lu Yu's question, Ma Jiming and his wife immediately remembered that Xia Ruofei's medical skills were very brilliant. Anyone with a little medical knowledge would know how dangerous Professor Tian's acute myocardial infarction was, not to mention Wanwan's autism. This was a world-class medical problem, but Xia Ruofei had successfully solved it. On the phone, Dean Chin of his family's private hospital had basically announced that his father, Ma Xiang, had no hope. Ma Zhiming was in a hurry to go back. On one hand, he wanted to see his father one last time. On the other hand, he wanted to go back to stabilize his situation and prepare for the various pressures from inside and outside the family after Ma Xiang's death. It was as if he had found a life-saving straw and placed all his hopes on Xia Ruofei. The couple looked at Xia Ruofei intently, hoping that he would nod. Xia Ruofei smiled bitterly. Chinese medicine does have a way to treat cerebral hemorrhage. However, it also needs to be analyzed in detail. I haven't seen the patient yet and I don't know the condition at all. I can't make any guarantees. When Lu Yu heard this, she immediately said, Xia Ruofei, please help auntie and uncle. We don't need your guarantee, we just need to try our best. When Lu Yu spoke, she looked at Xia Ruofei with her big, watery eyes. Xia Sheng, if it's convenient for you, please come back to Hong Kong with us, Ma Zhiming quickly said. We'll be very grateful regardless of whether the treatment is successful or not. Xia Ruofei was not against treating Ma Xiang's illness. He had a good impression of this well-known rich man. He was also familiar with the inspirational story of Ma Xiang's poor self when he was young. Moreover, helping the Ma family would definitely be of great help to his career in the future. However, Xia Ruofei did not know how serious Ma Xiang's condition was, so he was hesitant. He thought for a moment and said, it's fine if you want me to go with you. But I don't have a Hong Kong and Macau pass. A pass was required to go to Hong Kong. Even if it was an urgent application, it would take 5 to 7 working days. By then, it would be too late. I'll get my mom to coordinate it immediately. Lu Yu said without hesitation, you guys go to the airport first. Leave the Hong Kong and Macau pass to me. Xiao Xia. Tian Weishan looked at Xia Ruofei with pleading eyes. Xia Ruofei no longer hesitated. He nodded and said, all right. I'll go with you. But you'll have to wait for me for 2 minutes. With that, Xia Ruofei returned to the villa and entered the garage. The garage door was locked every morning, except for when he was carrying the vegetables. Xia Ruofei summoned the spirit painting scroll in the garage. Then, he took 5 days' worth of vegetables each for the 2 restaurants and placed them on both sides. Then, he took out a small suitcase from his space and put a few clothes in it. He then dragged the suitcase out of the villa. From Ma Zhiming and the others' point of view, Xia Ruofei must have gone into the house to pack his luggage. Xia Ruofei gave Yi Lingyun some instructions, mainly about Shi Zhongyu and Ling's restaurant coming over to pick up the vegetables. He also entrusted him with the farm's construction site. In the end, Xia Ruofei also gave Yi Lingyun the keys to the villa and the pickup truck. Then, Xia Ruofei also gave some instructions to Lightning. He wanted it to listen to Yi Lingyun's words when he was out for a few days. Time was of the essence. After Xia Ruofei quickly settled these matters, he followed Ma Zhiming's family into the Mercedes-Benz business car. Lu Yu, on the other hand, took the Mercedes-Benz that Ma Zhiming's bodyguard drove back to the city. On the way to the airport in the business car, Xia Ruofei called President Zheng and Ling Qingshe respectively, telling them that he was going out for a few days and that the Taoyuan vegetables to be supplied for the next 5 days had been prepared in advance. He asked them to send a car over to transport them immediately. Both families had their own cold storage, so it was not a big problem to keep the vegetables for a few days. In the end, Xia Ruofei sent Yi Lingyun's contact information to the 2 of them. When Ling Qingshe heard that Xia Ruofei was going out, she asked about the situation out of concern. However, this was Ma Zhiming's family's private matter, so it was not convenient for Xia Ruofei to say too much. He only said that he had an emergency and had to be away for a few days so that she could rest assured. The airport was also in Changping County, so it took about half an hour for the car to arrive at Changping Airport, which was located by the sea. This time, the Ma family had sent a private jet to pick them up, so Xia Ruofei and the others did not take the normal passageway. Instead, they came to a small building next to the main terminal. There was a passageway for private jets. As soon as they arrived at the airport, Lu Yu called to tell them that Xia Ruofei's Hong Kong and Macau pass was settled. The secretary had personally come forward. This could no longer be described as efficient. 10 minutes ago, Xia Ruofei had sent the required documents to Lu Yu in the car. The entire set of documents had been completed in less than half an hour. Ma Zhiming's bodyguards took Xia Ruofei's Hong Kong and Macau pass and drove to the airport. Xia Ruofei and the rest could only wait. Fortunately, the private jet from Hong Kong had yet to land, so it was not a waste of time. It was about a 50-minute drive from the city, but from the time Liu Yu called to the time when the bodyguards rushed to the private plane terminal, it only took about half an hour. It was estimated that these few brothers had also been running with all their might along the way. Xia Ruofei received a brand new Hong Kong and Macau pass, and immediately went through a simple security check with Ma Zhiming's family of 3. They entered the private plane terminal's restricted area. There was a limited number of passengers on the plane, so the bodyguards did not follow them in. They were taking the fastest civil flight back to the port. Xia Ruofei and the rest went to the designated parking spot on the tarmac and waited. After a short while, they saw a jet business plane much smaller than a passenger airliner slowly approaching from the distance and quickly and steadily landing on the runway. The plane quickly left the runway and glided along the runway to Xia Ruofei and the others. As soon as the plane stopped, a flight attendant immediately opened the cabin door and lowered the accommodation ladder. Then, he quickly walked down and stood respectfully beside the plane. As time was of the essence, the beautiful flight attendant immediately closed the cabin door after Xia Ruofei and the rest boarded the plane. As soon as everyone sat down and fastened their seat belts, the captain's voice came through the radio, telling everyone that the plane was about to slide to the runway again. From the moment they landed to the time they got on their computers and slid out again, not a single minute was wasted. The Gulfstream business jet waited at the runway for 2 to 3 minutes before it was granted permission to take off. The plane slowly turned and began to add take-off thrust after it was aligned with the runway. Xia Ruofei suddenly felt a push on his back. The scenery outside the porthole was rapidly passing by, and the plane was rapidly increasing its speed. Soon, Xia Ruofei felt the plane's body shake slightly. The plane jumped up lightly and flew into the sky. When Xia Ruofei was in the army, he had taken military transport planes and attack helicopters. However, this was his first time taking such a high-end business plane. He could not help but look around curiously. This Gulfstream G660 was also a high-end product among the private planes. The cabin was decorated extremely luxuriously, with full, wrapped leather seats, spacious sitting space, and dazzling multimedia facilities. Everything was beyond the reach of ordinary civil aviation first-class cabins. This was the life of the rich. It was convenient, fast, and traveling was more of an enjoyment. Xia Ruofei said in his heart, "One day, I will buy a plane like this." He had been in the army for 7 years and had risked his life for the country. It was time to enjoy life after he retired. Ma Zhiming and his wife were both worried. Only Huan, who was still young, seemed very happy because Xia Ruofei was also on the plane. The Gulfstream plane's cruising altitude was 40,000 feet, which was 30,000 feet higher than the general civil aircraft. Cruising in the stable stratosphere, the plane naturally did not have any bumps. About an hour later, the plane began to descend slowly and soon landed at Hong Kong International Airport. The plane taxied to the parking lot, and a luxurious Toyota Nanny car was already waiting there. The Ma family even coordinated with the immigration officers to quickly handle the entry procedures for Xia Ruofei on the tarmac. Then, the group got into the Toyota. Xia Ruofei thought that the car was heading straight for the hospital. Unexpectedly, the car did not leave the airport. Instead, it was led by the guide car to the helipad on the other side of the airport. The private helicopter arranged by the Ma family had already started its engine, and the group got on the helicopter again. The helicopter quickly took off and flew toward the southwest of Hong Kong. On the plane, Ma Zhiming explained a little. Xia Ruofei then realized that they had arranged this to avoid the traffic during the peak hour and to reach the hospital faster. Looking out the window at Hong Kong's bright lights and listening to the roaring helicopter engine, Xia Ruofei could not help but sigh with emotion about the life of the rich. Soon, the plane landed on the tarmac on the roof of a hospital building. The hospital was owned by the Ma family's Ungfeng Group and was one of the most high-end private hospitals in Hong Kong. It had the best medical conditions in Asia. Xia Ruofei and the others got off the helicopter. The Ma family members were already waiting on the tarmac. He led them directly to the elevator on the 8th floor, to the TICU. Ongfeng Hospital's director and other people were gathered outside the ICU. The big boss of Qin Zhuan Group was on the verge of death. They were naturally very nervous. Other than a group of doctors in white coats, there was also a group of people who were dressed in a way that showed that they were either rich or powerful. They gathered outside the ICU and waited. These people had different expressions on their faces. Some were anxious, some were looking forward to it, and some were even gloating over his misfortune. As soon as Ma Zhiming's group appeared, the people who were gathered at the entrance of the ICU all went up to them. Ongfeng Hospital's director was an old man with white hair. Before he could say anything, Ma Zhiming asked anxiously, "Dean Qin, how's my dad doing?" Dean Qin frowned and said, "Young Master Ming, Mr. Ma's condition doesn't look good. He's in a deep coma now and has lost a lot of blood. He has symptoms of intracranial hypertension and his cornea reflex has almost disappeared. You have to be mentally prepared." The two of them conversed in Cantonese. As it involved the patient's condition, Tian Weishin quietly translated it for Xia Ruofei to speak Mandarin. Ma Zhiming's eyes suddenly turned red. He asked, "Dean Qin, is there really no other way?" Dean Qin shook his head and said, "Mr. Ma is already so old, and his cerebral herniation has been here for a long time, so he's no longer in the condition for surgery. Conservative treatment is basically useless for such a serious condition." Ma Zhiming's body swayed, and he almost fainted. He reached out to hold the wall and took a few deep breaths before he recovered. "Young Ming, you have to hang in there. Uncle is blessed by the heavens, he'll definitely be fine. Second uncle is sick now. Ongfeng still needs you to support it." The relatives next to him all tried to comfort Ma Zhiming. Although Ma Xiang only had one son, Ma Zhiming, his family was still very big. Ma Xiang had a total of 6 siblings, and most of the people present today were Ma Zhiming's cousins. However, even though these people were saying words of comfort, they did not have too much sadness on their faces. This was how rich families were like. Ongfeng Group was founded by Ma Xiang, but most of his relatives held important positions in the group. Many of them even controlled some of the high-quality assets of Ongfeng. Now that the Ongfeng Group's head, Ma Xiang, was about to die, many people's thoughts had already turned to how to split the family property. Ma Zhiming turned his head abruptly and looked at Xia Ruofei with hope. He asked, "Xia Sheng, you must have a way to save my daddy, right?" "Mr. Ma, I can give it a try, but I can't guarantee the result," Xia Ruofei said calmly. Thank you. Ma Zhiming quickly said, "Mr. Xia, I'll leave it to you. No matter what the result is, I will thank you properly." Xia Ruofei nodded and said, "There's no time to lose, Mr. Ma. I need to prepare some Chinese medicine immediately. Please send me to the nearest Chinese medicine shop. Our Ongfeng Hospital has a Chinese medicine room." Ma Zhiming quickly said, "Dean Qin, take Xia Sheng to the Chinese medicine room immediately. No matter what herbs he needs, you must prepare them immediately." At this moment, an elegant middle-aged lady looked at Xia Ruofei suspiciously and asked with a frown, "Ming, who is he?" This middle-aged lady was called Ma Jia, and she was the daughter of Ma Zhiming's uncle. She was also working at Ongfeng Group, and her position in the group was second only to Ma Zhiming. Ma Zhiming slightly frowned and said, "Sister Quan, this is Xia Sheng, an expert I invited from the mainland." "An expert?" Ma Su raised his head slightly and glanced at Xia Ruofei. He sneered. "Could it be that this little brat knows sorcery? This is the first time I've seen such a young mage. Sister Quan, don't talk nonsense." Ma Zhiming quickly said, "Xia Sheng is a brilliant Chinese medicine doctor." "He's such a young Chinese medicine doctor." Ma Jia cried out exaggeratedly, "Ming, you're not being tricked, are you? We understand that you're concerned about second uncle's illness, but you can't be so ridiculous. What kind of medical skills can a young child know?" Ma Jia had been speaking to Ma Zhiming in broken Mandarin. It was obvious that she had deliberately said it for Xia Ruofei to hear. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Xia Ruofei and said loudly on purpose, "Ming, there are too many scammers in the mainland, you have to be careful. There are some scammers who specifically target rich people like you." Tian Weishin couldn't help but frown when she heard this. Ma Jia's words were really too harsh. Ma Jia then pretended to misspeak and covered her mouth, saying, "Sister-in-law, don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about you." Tian Weishan was from the mainland, so Ma Jia obviously had a hidden meaning in her words and deliberately said it for Tian Weishan. Tian Weishan looked at Xia Ruofei, who was beside her. Seeing that he was still calm and collected, she felt a little more at ease. Then, she frowned and said, "Sister Quan, Xiao Xia is my father's good friend. She is also an important guest that Jiming and I have invited. Please be more polite." Ma Jia's eyes widened exaggeratedly and said, "Sister-in-law, I'm doing this for you, Jiming, and Angfeng. What if Ming Zai gets too worried and gets cheated of a large sum of money to treat second uncle's illness? That would be Angfeng's loss." Angfeng was founded by Ma Shang. Although he had distributed a small number of shares to the younger generation of the family, the majority of the shares were controlled by him and Ma Jiming. And Ma Jia's words made it sound like she was the master of Angfeng. Ma Jiming suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart and said, "Sister Quan, don't say any more. My dad's condition is so critical that every minute is dangerous. I'm going to ask Mr. Xia to treat Dad immediately. It's settled." After he finished speaking, Ma Jiming saw that Ma Jia was still preparing to speak, so he directly added another sentence, "The one lying in the ward is my father. I'll be responsible for any problems that arise." Then, Ma Jiming looked at Xia Ruofei sincerely and said, "Xia Sheng, sorry to trouble you." Xia Ruofei smiled and nodded. Director Qin of Angfeng Hospital quickly led the way and was ready to take Xia Ruofei to the Chinese medicine room. When Xia Ruofei passed by Ma Jia, a playful smile appeared on his face. He stopped and looked at her. "Big sister, let me give you a sentence, the brain is a good thing." Ma Jia was somewhat baffled by these nonsensical words and asked impatiently, "What did you say?" Xia Ruofei smiled and said, "A brain is a good thing, I hope you have one too." Then, Xia Ruofei followed Dean Qin. Ma Su was stunned for a moment, but when he came back to his senses, he was furious and screamed, "Damn you! You dare to say I'm brainless!" Xia Ruofei stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at Ma Jia coldly. His bone-chilling gaze caused Ma Su's heart to turn cold. Xia Ruofei's cold-killing intent disappeared as soon as it was released. Then, he said indifferently, "The patient is Mr. Ma's father, and I'm the doctor that Mr. Ma invited. Do you think anyone with a brain would jump out and talk big at this time?" He paused for a moment, and before Ma Jia could say anything, he continued, "Also, you'd better put away your inexplicable sense of superiority, especially your mouth full of vulgarities. That will only expose your lack of manners." With that, Xia Ruofei left quickly without looking back. Ma Jia was so angry that her whole body trembled. She asked loudly behind her, "If you can't cure second uncle's illness, what will you say?" Xia Ruofei turned around again and laughed, "What a joke. When did I promise that I could cure it?" Angfeng Hospital had so many brain experts and first-class medical facilities in Asia, but they were all helpless. "Why do I have to be cured? Even Mr. Ma didn't say anything, what right do you have to point fingers?" After that, Xia Ruofei ignored the unreasonable woman and quickly followed Dean Qin, disappearing around the corner. Ma Jiming frowned slightly and looked at Ma Jia thoughtfully. He didn't pay attention to her, but took his wife and daughter to the long bench next to him and sat down. He had placed all his hopes on Xia Ruofei. All he could do now was wait. Since Ma Jiming valued Xia Ruofei so much, Dean Qin naturally did not dare to neglect him. He respectfully led Xia Ruofei to the elevator and to the Chinese medicine room on the first floor. Then, he asked, "Mr. Xia, we've arrived at the Chinese medicine room. What can I do for you?" "Dean Qin, I'll have to trouble you," Xia Ruofei said with a smile. "Please ask the staff to leave. I can make the medicine myself. It won't take up any of your time." "No problem, no problem," Dean Qin quickly said. Dean Qin wouldn't say anything even if he closed the Chinese medicine room for a whole day, let alone a few minutes. He followed Xia Ruofei's instructions and called for the staff to come out. Then, he respectfully invited Xia Ruofei into the pharmacy. Xia Ruofei walked in and took a look. Angfeng Hospital was indeed powerful. Rows of neat cabinets were filled with small drawers, and each drawer was labeled. It was a spectacular sight. Even the provincial hospital of Chinese medicine might not be as big as this pharmacy. Xia Ruofei had already checked and memorized a prescription for calming the mind and nourishing the brain. This prescription naturally couldn't cure a cerebral hemorrhage, but taking it would definitely not be bad for the body. Xia Ruofei didn't take the herbs according to the prescription. Instead, he took more than 40 kinds of herbs. Besides the 7 or 8 herbs he needed, the rest were just for cover. The Qingqing pharmacy had surveillance cameras. Xia Ruofei had always been cautious. Xia Ruofei walked out of the pharmacy with a big tray of Chinese medicine. Dean Qin immediately came up to them, but he knew how to avoid suspicion, so he didn't look at the herbs. Mr. Xia, have you gathered all the medicinal herbs? Dean Qin asked. You have quite a wide range of medicinal herbs here. Xia Ruofei smiled and continued to ask, is there a place to boil medicine? Yes, it's just next door. Please follow me. Dean Qin quickly said. The room where the medicine was being brewed had already been cleared, so Dean Qin walked him to the door and stopped. Xia Ruofei locked the door and checked that there were no surveillance cameras in the room. He was finally relieved. He skillfully found the herbs he needed from the tray and started to brew the medicinal soup. Ongfeng Hospital's traditional Chinese medicine clinic was very professional. It had all the necessary facilities to decoct Chinese medicine. There was a charcoal stove, a clay pot, and unrooted water that was stored in a specially pure water bucket. Xia Ruofei put the herbs into the clay pot, added an appropriate amount of rootless water, and started to boil the medicine. The process of boiling the medicine was very boring, but he could not be distracted at all times. Although it was just a medicine to fool the public, Xia Ruofei still followed the procedures listed on the internet strictly and spent more than half an hour to boil the medicine. He poured the medicinal soup into a porcelain bowl that was specially used to store Chinese medicine. Then, he poured the remaining unused medicinal herbs and the dregs into the furnace and burned them all. In this way, even the most brilliant Chinese medicine doctor would not be able to find out the specific prescription of his medicine. Xia Ruofei checked again vigilantly. After confirming that it was safe, he summoned the spirit painting and took out the preservation box from the medium. After a few days of accumulation, he had 13 petals now. This was under the condition that Xia Ruofei increased the frequency of using petals to 2 every 3 days. Otherwise, he could have saved more. Although the amount of exotic flower petals would increase greatly after the farm started operating, and there might even be a situation where they would be short of money, Xia Ruofei still insisted on strengthening himself. After experiencing the torture of the terminal illness, Xia Ruofei was very clear-headed and realized that only the improvement of his personal strength was real. Otherwise, everything else was just floating clouds. Xia Ruofei used a pair of tweezers to carefully pick up one of the blue petals and put it into the medicinal soup. The flower petals dissolved into the medicinal soup without a sound. He stirred the medicinal soup with a spoon and did the same thing as last time. He placed the porcelain bowl into the spirit map space and used the difference in the flow of time to cool down the medicinal soup in a few minutes. Xia Ruofei took out the medicine that had cooled down from the medium and kept the painting in his body. Then, he walked out of the room with the porcelain bowl. Dean Qin had been waiting outside the door for more than half an hour. He didn't even sit down, he was anxiously pacing back and forth. Dean Qin quickly walked over when he saw Xia Ruofei. Mr. Xia, is everything settled? Xia Ruofei smiled and said, Dean Qin, let's go to the ICU. Okay, thank you, Dean Qin quickly said. The two of them hurried to the elevator. A cerebral hemorrhage was a very dangerous disease, especially since Ma Xiang had fallen into a deep coma so quickly. Under such circumstances, the death rate was more than 90%, and they all died within a few hours to a few days, so the two of them felt a sense of urgency. As soon as he saw Xia Ruofei and Dean Qin, Ma Zhiming immediately walked up to them. Most of Ma Zhiming's relatives were watching from a distance with complicated expressions. Ma Jia, who had been spitting *t just now, even sneered and looked at Xia Ruofei with disdain. In fact, not to mention Ma Jia and these relatives, even Dean Qin and the hospital's brain experts also felt that Ma Zhiming was desperate. With such serious symptoms of cerebral hemorrhage, he could die at any time. How could Chinese medicine be effective? Xia Sheng, Ma Zhiming shouted. The medicine is ready, Xia Ruofei smiled and said, there's No time to waste. Let's give it to old Master Ma immediately. Okay. Ma Zhiming quickly said. He personally accompanied Xia Ruofei and entered the ICU under Dean Qin's guidance. Everyone put on sterile clothes and went through a full set of disinfection procedures before they finally entered Ma Xiang's ward. This was the first time that Ma Zhiming had seen his father since he returned to Hong Kong. The white-haired Ma Xiang was lying on the hospital bed with his eyes closed. He looked extremely haggard. His body was connected to all kinds of wires, and advanced medical equipment monitored his body's various indicators at all times. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but take a few more glances at the skinny old man on the bed. He couldn't associate him with the tycoon who was famous in the business world of Hong Kong. Ma Xiang started from scratch and accumulated tens of billions of assets after decades of hard work. He was the king of jewelry in Hong Kong. At the same time, the Ungfeng Group founded by Ma Xiang had been involved in many industries such as food and beverage, medical care, and finance in recent years. It was a true business kingdom. However, such a business giant still seemed so vulnerable in the face of a sudden illness. Xia Ruofei couldn't help but feel the fragility of life. So what if he was rich? If the king of hell wants you to die at midnight, you really won't live to see 5. Daddy. Ma Zhiming's voice was a little choked. Master Ming, Mr. Ma is in a deep coma. He doesn't respond to external stimuli. Dean Qin said in a low voice. Xia Ruofei carefully placed the medicine on the bedside table and said, "There's no time to waste. We'll feed the medicine to old Mr. Ma immediately." Mr. Ma doesn't have any swallowing reaction, Dean Qin quickly said. Should we perform a gastric intubation? It was also very important to be careful when administering medicine to a patient in a deep coma. This was because a normal person would let the food enter their esophagus through swallowing, but there would be no swallowing reaction in a patient in a deep coma. The amount of Chinese medicine was relatively large. If it was taken directly, the success rate would be very low, and it was even likely to choke the lungs. However, if intubation was needed, the patient would suffer because the catheter usually entered through the nostril and was directly placed into the stomach. The process was naturally very painful. Of course, unconscious patients generally wouldn't feel this kind of pain. Xia Ruofei pondered for a moment. Not for now. Let's try it in small amounts first. If it really doesn't work, we'll intubate again. This. Dean Qin was shocked. Mr. Xia, this is too dangerous. No. Dean Qin didn't expect Xia Ruofei to make such a layman's decision. He didn't have any hope for Chinese medicine to begin with, and now Xia Ruofei's decision made him even more suspicious of Xia Ruofei's medical skills. That was because Xia Ruofei did not even know what was common sense. If it wasn't for Ma Zhiming, Dean Qin would have scolded him. Ma Zhiming said without thinking, "Dean Qin, listen to Xia Sheng. This. All right." Dean Qin sighed and spoke. This was the case with private hospitals. They were the young owners, so they had the final say. Professionalism was useless. Dean Qin stood aside and watched as Xia Ruofei made a scene. Xia Ruofei lifted the head of the bed and scooped a small amount of the medicine. He gestured for Ma Zhiming to come over and help hold Ma Xiang. Then, he held Ma Xiang's jaw and used a little force to make Ma Xiang's mouth open a slit. He used his other hand to hold the soup spoon and put the small amount of medicinal soup into Ma Xiang's mouth bit by bit. Dean Qin shook his head. Xia Ruofei's actions were too unprofessional. However, Xia Ruofei was still very calm. After feeding her a small mouthful, he waited for a while before scooping up a large spoonful and preparing to feed her a second mouthful. Dean Qin almost couldn't help but stop ying-yang. It didn't matter if the first mouthful was small, but the second mouthful was full. If Xia Ruofei continued to mess around, the patient would be in danger. However, to Dean Qin's surprise, Xia Ruofei successfully fed him the entire spoonful of medicinal soup and quickly scooped another spoonful. Dean Qin took a closer look. When Xia Ruofei was feeding him the medicine, Ma Xiang's throat was obviously swallowing. Dean Qin's eyes almost popped out. What was going on? Why would Ma Xiang, who was in a deep coma, suddenly have a swallowing reaction? Could it be that his coma index has increased? Dean Qin pounced on the devices that were monitoring Ma Xiang's vital signs.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.